This is Burkittsville, formerly Blair. It is a small, quiet Maryland town. There are an unusually high number of children laid to rest here, most of whom passed in the 1940s. Yet no one in the town seems to recall anything unusual about this time. To us, anyway. Yet legend tells a different story. One whose evidence is all around us, etched in stone.
Hello and welcome to the scary season of the Cine-Files, where John and I screw our courage to the... No, that's the wrong phrase. Hold on, let me try it again and see if I can come up with a better...
You might even say that we screw our courage to the sticking post to get into things here.
Damn it.
On the Cine-Files. I am John Rocha, writer, producer, and host, and voiceover artist here in San Diego, California.
And before we jump into this week's movie, which I am pretty excited about, John, this is going to be a very unusual conversation for the Cine-Files. Yeah. We just want to thank everyone who makes these conversations possible, like our supporters on patreon.com/the Cine-Files, as well as Apple Podcasts, who are listening to this episode ad-free. They also get to hear our Cine-Files shorts and even join our advisory board on Patreon. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't listen ad-free and you hear the sponsors and you hear the supporters of the show during the ad breaks, a great way you can support the channel if you can't do the Patreon, if you can't do contributions, is to patronize these clients and these supporters of the show with their products. Try out their products and services. Use our code so you get a massive discount, and you indicate to them that they should keep coming back and support the Cine-Files every month here with their ad dollars. We would appreciate it.
And this year, for a Halloween film on the Cine-Files, we are exploring what I think is one of the most unusual films we've ever done, particularly because of the way it was made. And that is 1999's Blair Witch Project, directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sánchez. John, how did you come? Actually, I want to ask this question slightly differently.
Okay.
So what I would like to do, one of the things that's make this weird is I want to start our conversation where we normally end it, which is with marketing. Because the way we all started hearing about this Blair Witch Project thing was very, very different from a traditional movie. This is really the first true internet movie, the first viral movie. And this is how this starts in terms of marketing, which is Kevin Fox, who's the executive producer, brings it to a company called Klein & Walker for public relations. They launch a website in 1998 with police reports and newsreel style interviews talking about these missing students. And all of the things they started putting on this website, including these interviews, were all made to look like this thing was real. Then when they went to the Florida Film Festival, they didn't show the movie. They showed a documentary with newsreel footage and fake police reports and fake witnesses. And at Sundance, when the film was at Sundance, they are handing out flyers asking for info on these missing students who apparently disappeared. And even then, on IMDb, they were listed as missing or dead, which meant that the actors who played these parts couldn't work. And on the website, there are all these improv students giving interviews about these actors who have gone missing. By August of 1999, and I cannot stress enough how insane this number is for that time, that website had received 160 million hits.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so that's where I wanted to start, because that's how so my question is not actually, how did you first come to this film? My question is, how did you first come to this idea of the Blair Witch?
Through a trailer. I had no idea about any of this. This is 1999. I got out of the military a year before. I'd gone to community college at night and eventually got my degree, took off for a year, lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, and then came to Florida State. And this film, when it debuted at Florida State, and I remember going to the AMC 20 in Tallahassee, I had no knowledge. Like I didn't have like high-end internet back then. It was all dial-up stuff. So I wasn't going on these websites. I was somewhat new to Ain't It Cool News, but didn't know much about Ain't It Cool News. So I was not as in-depth in this stuff as I am now, obviously, as a career. So for me, it was more just something that I saw a trailer and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Found footage. Holy shit. What's this all about? It's a documentary. And I'd always been a fan of documentaries about weird shit since In Search of in the 1970s. So I'd always had a fascination with kind of not found footage, but certainly like footage that looks like it was shot while this stuff was going on. So I had no knowledge of any of this. I didn't know it was fake. I didn't know these were actors. I didn't know this stuff was like a campaign. I didn't even see the mockumentary, which apparently premiered on Sci-Fi about this. What I knew is this was a video. What I knew is this was a movie about these three people that went into the woods. And having grown up in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, I knew very well the locations they were going to. I served in Maryland in the military there at Fort Meade. So I knew Maryland. I knew this location, this area. So it appealed to me on so many levels before I saw the movie. So I had no idea of the marketing other than the trailer when I went in to see the film. And none of my friends, including geek buddy Mike Vogel, took it upon themselves to tell me that it was not real, that it was fake. So my experience watching the movie was as visceral as it gets until after the movie, when my friends were laughing at me because they were laughing with me rather, because they didn't know that I didn't know it was fake.
This is why I wanted to start here, because I think both in terms of the way they created perceptions around the movie before it came out, and the way this movie was made, which is unlike any other film we've ever talked about in the Cine-Files and almost like any other film ever made. I mean, this is totally unique. And it meant that people brought things to their first screening of the film that aren't the same as when you saw the trailer and you saw the poster and there were a couple of commercials. Like, this is different. So for me, I graduated film school in 97. So this is when I was working at the DVD quality control job on the Universal backlot. And so we did have computers, you know, we were on the Universal Network computer system. And so I was totally into Ain't It Cool News at the time. And I remember going on this website. I remember I probably was supposed to get back to, you know, checking out the DVD for, you know, the Manchurian Candidate or something. But I just kept going like, is this, we sat at the website and went, this can't be real.
Right.
Is this real? What is this? Like, and having that, and even if you're not fully in the, oh my God, this is real camp. The way a ghost story operates is always in the, well, I don't really believe that. And yet, you know?
Yeah, I know that's the thing that you get caught up in, right? Is like, well, it could be true, it could not be true. And this is, again, it's really hard for people, especially younger listeners of ours, Steve, to remember what 1999 was like and how little internet access you actually had, how little access you had to so many things. So when this brilliant viral campaign was launched by these young guys, they deserve so much credit for being ahead of the curve, right? We're always surprised by people who are ahead of the curve and the marketing people that get involved and find these creators at the perfect time in order to take advantage of something they've wanted to try. Because we are still in the for lack of a better term, in the nascent stages of the internet, right? So it was nowhere near as prevalent as it is now. And I think that's what made it all the more fascinating and interesting, and why so many people still, like, I went and watched a 45-minute presentation that they did from earlier this year, where one of the Comic-Cons was able to get all three of the actors, including Heather, who goes by a different name now, to be there and talk about it for 45 minutes. And so many of the comments in YouTube, because I went to see what people said about this stuff, so many of them said, I saw this and didn't know it was fake. Like, there's so many. So I wasn't the only one. Again, this just proves that, like, the internet was nowhere near as prevalent as it is now back in 1999. So you could fool a bunch of people. So these people were very smart in how they rolled this whole thing out. And I think you're to bring out the mockumentary, to hire fake actors to play police doing reports. I mean, I don't know if you get away with this now because there would be so much drama. But back then, it was really smart to do it this way because there weren't a lot of regulations against this kind of stuff.
It's funny, the direction I'm going with this is kind of the opposite of what you are saying, because yes, it is very different from the nascent, as you said, era of the internet of the 90s up to today. It is a totally different world, but I think this proves what the internet is going to do, which is fool all sorts of people into believing all sorts of things that are not in fact true.
Well,
like I mean, in the 90s, we were going like the internet is the great hope of truth and knowledge, and communities will come together and there won't be any lying and all this stuff. And it's like, no, the Blair Witch Project is actually what it's going to be. People put forth stuff. You go like, can I believe this? Is this real? All the time.
You're so cute. I think the internet was this. How can I get naked women on my TV? On my
sure.
Yeah.
I know.
I think that was.
But people were talking about it. I agree.
No, right.
No, the horribleness was always on the internet. I just mean that we didn't realize this was going to be ubiquitous.
Yeah, no. You know? You're so correct. There's so much about this movie and about the campaign around this movie and what happened to the actors as a result of this movie that makes this film unique and incredible in a lot of ways, but also a cautionary tale in a lot of ways as well. So, Steve, you're absolutely right in bringing that up.
I'm glad you mentioned the actors right here, because we're going to get back. We're going to get to this story when we get to the end.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say a lot of things where I am actually genuinely impressed with these two directors directing this movie. And what they came up with is a completely unique way to direct a film.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought up the compensation, because that is why I will never like these guys. Like they did not protect their actors, and so yes, they did some amazing stuff with this film, but I don't like that.
Well, I agree with you, but I think I blame the studio more. Artisan and Lionsgate. I do not blame I don't blame young filmmakers who are getting a chance to do an independent film for not thinking 25 years ahead for what was going to happen and how big this film was going to be. No one predicted this film was going to be a massive success, including the actors, which is why, having been an actor, which is why you sign away stuff when you're just trying to build a resume of material and work so you can get bigger work. You have no idea that it's going to blow up. But then again, I don't know if these directors did nefarious things in order to screw the actors and make as much money as possible off of them. I don't know too much about that. Maybe you have information on that, so that might change my overall feeling on it. But I blame the studio more than anything else because they made the majority of the profits, and they should have found it incumbent to compensate their actors for the work that they did, and shouldn't have led to multiple lawsuits to try to get them money. You know?
So we'll get into this in detail throughout.
Sure.
But Rob Reiner fought the WGA to try to get his actors as the screenwriters because they came up with all the lines.
Right.
And of course, the WGA, their rules, and they weren't able to quite do it in that way. But that is the ethical thing. These actors wrote this movie.
If you're Rob Reiner from a legacy of Hollywood people.
No, John, I 100% disagree.
Wait,
they had a contract with the actors.
That's fine. Yes. Yes.
And they included nothing about compensation within their initial contract. Had nothing to, the studio was terrible to them. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
But, one of the directors was 33. It's like, this isn't a kid. Like you're having people out in the woods doing this, and you don't give them a piece of the movie. You don't have anything in your contract about profit participation. Is fucked up and unethical. And that's how I feel.
Okay, great. I disagree, because I think the actors have to take care of themselves as well. These were not 15-year-olds. These were 20-year-olds. And so if you're going to say, if you're an adult past 21 and you signed a contract, you are responsible for reading the contract and deciding one way or another. Now, what it all led to, of course, was pretty terrible. But I'm not going to compare two young filmmakers with literally no experience making theatrical films and dealing with the theatrical business and dealing with studios and the dirty executives that are involved with someone like Rob Reiner, who has been doing it for multiple decades, and his dad, who did it for years before him. So I don't know how these directors, how much experience they had, right? But to me, I don't know that I necessarily blame them as hard as I blame the studio. But I take your point in a vacuum. Yes, absolutely. But I think you have to factor in all this other stuff that was going on around these guys, and they're really inexperienced with what was going to happen with all of this.
Again, I say one of them was 33.
So what?
You can still be a newbie at 33 about something. Sure.
I mean, I could be 33. Doesn't mean I know how to do negotiate Middle East. It's these things like, if you're not that aware of certain things, I 33 as an actor, I wouldn't know what it was like to be a series regular on a TV show. I wouldn't know what to look out for, how to protect myself, I wouldn't know all that, even though I'm 33. It's about experience for me, but again, I totally respect your point of view and where you're coming from. I just kind of see it differently.
as a teacher of students who I watched do lots of stupid things, because you're totally right. They don't have frequently have no idea that what they're doing is unethical. True. I, as their teacher, would call them out and say, this is not ethical.
Yeah,
I will
fair.
always
totally fair.
Yeah. Because, and as you know, actors in particular are incredibly vulnerable to people that will take advantage of them. Right. You know,
we are. Yeah. True.
But let's talk. But I do think what they came up with was absolutely brilliant. And I think that we need to talk about how they got there. And you actually mentioned one of the points, which is some of their favorite shows were things like In Search of and Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Yeah.
And they loved documentaries about paranormal activity and what happened in this haunted house. And what they realized was that they thought that stuff was much scarier than the actual horror films that they were going to see.
Yeah.
So they got Ripley's Believe It or Not and In Search of. They got these paranormal docs. And then the other movies they're talking about are ones that we've talked about, one of them quite recently on the show, which is Jaws and The Shining.
Yeah.
And the thing that they said about Jaws and The Shining, which obviously we just talked about, is that the real fear comes from the atmosphere. You don't see the shark. It is all about what is created in your brain. And they took these ideas together, the documentary, the paranormal exploration show, and the atmospherics and fear created in your brain. And they came up with this, what I think is a completely radical approach to making a film.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to think that Texas Chainsaw has an influence on this as well, which feels very much like a documentary approach to a horror film. Like, I'd be very surprised that there wasn't some influence from that as well, which is one of the reasons why I rarely watch that movie. I think I've only ever seen it two or three times in my life, because it is just too real. And I think this film really captures that realness so well.
So to raise some money, they made an 8-minute mini documentary. And the thing we should point out is the format that this film ended up in is actually very different from what the intention was. The intention was to do much more of a multifaceted documentary with police interviews and on-the-scene interviews and talking to historians, with the lost footage being 30% of the film. In other words, it was really a documentary about the whole Blair Witch thing, that included this story of these lost people, but then the lost students became the whole film. And then they developed a 35-page, it's not really a screenplay, it's not even just an outline of the story, it is a whole plan for a series of improvisations moved by GPS location in various places, including ways that they were going to mess with and alter and play with what was happening in the film.
Where are we in 99? Do we have the Christopher Guest movies? Do we have improvisation?
Yeah.
So maybe there's an element of that influencing this approach as well, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They put a call out on Backstage. And for people who don't know, like, there is the way that higher level or medium level professional actors get work in Hollywood and New York and all over the country. And then there is Backstage. And Backstage, I mean, no disrespect. That might have sounded like I disrespect Backstage. I subscribed to Backstage at some point. I bet you did too.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was looking at auditions to go to, and this is where you are starting out. And particularly, it's really theater based, that you're going to go out and find places to get actors. They say that they did auditions with 2,000 actors doing improvs.
Yeah, wow. 2,000.
That's a big number.
That is exhausting, is what that is, for God's sake.
I don't quite believe it. I don't know how you could, because if you're thinking, like, you guys could do the math. If you have a minimum of 5 minutes with each of those actors, that is a real, real long time.
Yeah, it is.
But, things get exaggerated in these stories. And of course, the big thing that they needed was actors who can improvise. And what's really interesting too, and I'm assuming that you've done this in some of your classes and stuff.
Yeah.
The majority of the time when people think about improv performance, it's comedy. You're thinking about Anchorman, you're thinking about 40-Year-Old Virgin that we just did.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of serious improv when I was in school, and I love doing that. I don't know how much of that you did.
Yeah, I mean, I did I studied at the Groundlings for one semester or something like that here or there in LA. It was a lot of fun. It was a horrible experience for a class because everyone was funnier than I was. But then I got on stage and my natural instincts to perform took over and I was fine. So by the end, I was like, I didn't even need to take this class because I just basically did what I always did. but I was watching other people, how they work, and I was watching how they put this all together. And so I'm not as good of an improver as other people are. And I'm always fascinated by how great the great ones are, the instincts they have in those moments to go back and forth with people and create stuff. And so I'm always impressed by improv. But John Rhys Davies said it best: 90% of improv is shit. The 10% is the gold that you're looking for. And so, yeah, it's not an easy thing to master at all.
Yeah, I'm with him on his ratio. I mean, it's such a book, because what's interesting too, is what you put your finger on it. Because when you go to that Groundlings class, the goal is to be funny, and there's also definitely a understood but never spoken thing of everybody kind of wants to be the funniest one in that group, because you want the person, because I don't know if anyone who knows about Second City and Groundlings and all these things, there are classes and then there are upgrades of the classics. And maybe you could be an alternate on the Sunday show, but then people on the Sunday show, they sometimes get on the Saturday show, and Lauren might come in at any time. And so there's always this jockeying thing. And the thing about doing that kind of improv is that it's teaching the opposite lessons of when you have to actually do a serious improv.
Yeah.
Because in a serious improv, and particularly in this film, we're not supposed to think that this is an improv.
Yeah.
We're supposed to think that this is really happening. Whereas the fun of watching comedy improv is, it's an improv. Yeah. They're coming up with that thing at that moment. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they rhymed that to that. That's amazing.
Right.
Different skill for what they're asking these actors to do when they're coming into audition.
This happens for commercial auditions all the time. People should know that as an actor, like sometimes you're watching commercials. Sometimes it is the actors who've come up with those lines and you don't get paid for it. That's the thing that sucks. And sometimes you audition because you improv a moment or improv a scene, or they ask you to improv some situation, and the directors don't hire you for that commercial, but they take what you did in the audition and use that when they hire the actual actors to be in the commercial. So you kind of can get fucked in so many ways when it comes to improving, which is why now people have more regulation. Actors are more aware of this stuff and say, if you're going to use this, then I want to be credited or paid as a writer, or I get to sue you because I know you did, or I did this or whatever. So it's a very murky line when it comes to the improvisation in auditions.
It happens all the time. It is. I so agree. And it's what's funny. It's really hard too, because if you see your 2000 auditions, and then like a week later you're on the set and you're like, hey, try this. You don't even necessarily 100% remember that this came from that actor. There was one very clear one when we were auditioning the assistants, and this dude did this one thing in the audition, and I didn't cast him. And I called him and I asked him, I said, hey, look, you were great in the audition. We're not casting you, but I love this thing you do. Is it okay? We'll give you, and I gave him a thank you in the movie.
That's great, man. Yeah, that's great, man. That's very good and ethical of you, for sure.
Yeah, because but I, you see something great and you're like, but I don't like this person. But I want to just really try to highlight the degree of difficulty we're talking about here, because anytime you come up with a movie and you're like, I need someone who's got college level basketball skills,
right?
Well, then you narrow the pool that you're drawing from, because there are very few people that can act that also have college level basketball skills.
Yeah.
Anytime you add an additional skill to an audition, you narrow the group of people. So here we need someone who can do a serious improv, not a comedic improv, but a really serious improv that feels really real.
Yeah.
Now we need someone who can do that without a director.
Yeah.
Not even with a director that can check in. They have no scripts. And we need them to run all the camera and all the sound, to capture all these things.
Well, that's where I think that's where my beef is on all of this, Steve. Because for me, who are the real directors?
That's what I'm saying.
Right. So, well, I mean, I'm not going to go far and say the directors intentionally. I think it's more a matter of like, who really directed this movie? Because as you said, they train these kids, these young people in their 20s for 2-3 days.
Yeah,
learn how to run the camera and run sound or whatever, and then let them out in the woods. Now I'm sure you're going to get to this, but they left little hints to tell them where to go and what to improvise. So in a way, they were directing. They offered direction or provided direction. But what's in the movie is almost all improvised by the actors, including the camera movements and everything that happens with the cameras. And so for me, I think it's more a matter of, I've seen their lawsuits, against Lionsgate. I think they should have sued the DGA to try to get director credit for themselves for the movie. Because to me, if they're manning the camera, they're coming up with a dialogue, and you're going to use the footage they shot to make the movie, they have to me, they have a claim to be considered co-directors on the film.
I feel like you've made my point. Well, and I think, when you're asking actors to do that, I mean, you know me, like I had a teacher, my teacher, Lauren Buckman at Cal, and it was, I had done this play called The Dream Graveyard, and we had a big, huge sword fight in it. And I love fight choreography, and I wasn't really a fencer. I'd done some fencing, but I was like, I needed a partner who's a fencer, and one of the actors had done fencing. And I said, okay, why don't you and I fence, every day, and we're going to work out the fight choreography. We did the whole fight choreography, and I was doing the credits for the program, and I was like, how do I credit fight choreography? Yeah. And because I was like, you know what, most of that choreography is really mine, like 80%. But this guy, Adam, had helped, and he's a young guy and a good fencer. And so I went to my professor, Lauren Buckman, and I said, Lauren, what do I do? And he said, look, when you're a director, you can never give away enough credit, because if the play succeeds, you're going to get all the credit. And if it fails, you're going to get all the blame. So if you can give someone else some credit, do it. And so the credit in that program read Fight Choreography by Adam Noble. Yeah. And would you like to know what Adam Noble's job is today?
Sure.
He's a professional fight choreographer.
That's great. Yeah.
And so to me, like that was a formative moment for me. And so these fucking directors, these directors knew their script was going to be improvised, their camera work is going to be taken care of, and that these actors would have to make changes and make decisions without a director present. So the amount of credit these guys should get is off the charts as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you on that end, for sure. How much these directors intended to screw them over, that's where I think we have a disagreement on what might have happened here.
Maybe not, because I don't think they intended to screw the actors over necessarily. I mean, like one of the big screwings over I got fairly early in my career was by a perfectly nice guy who was a friend of mine who definitely didn't intend to screw me over. He just wasn't thinking about me. That's what I think. And so yeah, I agree with you. I don't necessarily think they intended to screw these guys over. I think they did screw them over,
Okay.
All right. Anyway, would you like to enter the word of Burkittsville and the Blair Witch Project?
Let's do it.
So one thing that's always interesting is like, this is a 4:3 movie because this is shot on video. And we have that shaky title over black and white and text on screen that says, in October of 1994, 3 student filmmakers disappeared into the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland, while shooting a documentary. A year later, their footage was found. So, I mean, I think we already spoiled the fact that this is not true. These guys are still alive. There's no Blair Witch. This is all made up. And I really like that they start on the color card and pulling into focus for the camera work and stuff. And this was, by the way, shot at the PA's house. The directors of the film are sitting, as they often are. They're in a car outside watching the performance through binoculars through the window. Yeah. As they film it. And of course, the first person we meet is the director in the movie, Heather Donahue.
Oh, you look a little blurry there. Let me zoom out on you. Okay. Good morning.
Got it?
Okay, I got you.
This is my home.
Okay. Wow.
Which I am leaving the comforts of for the weekend to explore the Blair Witch.
Heather Donahue, who is now Ray Hance, that's how she spells her name now, REI space HANCE. She was born in 1974. She is retired. She retired from acting in 2008. After this film, which was, of course, her first film, as Steve and I have spoken about, she went on to do a miniseries called Taken. And she was the daughter of an office manager and a printer. And she graduated from Philadelphia's University of the Arts in 1995 with a BFA in theater, and also performed in productions at the Battersea Arts Centre in London, where she appeared in conjunction with the University of Arts in London. She was an apprentice there. So this is not someone who did not have much training. She was quite trained to be an actress and got this role. As you said, Steve, beat out almost 2,000 other people to get the role, but has a very complicated relationship with this movie. It's what caused her in the end to retire from acting. She became a medicinal marijuana grower. and then eventually got into writing. She went through a deep state of depression about the film, got into drinking and all of this, and but she climbed out of it, became an author, became a writer, and she is now subsequently relocated to Freedom, Maine, where she is sober. She served on the town's select board for a year until this year, when she was recalled after a dispute over a public easement. But she has recently started to come out and appear at cons and appear in interviews to talk about her experience. So I'm glad that she's been through all the. I'm not glad that she went through the hell, but I'm glad she climbed out of the hell and didn't take her own life when it sounded like for 2 years she really wanted to, and is able to talk about her experiences on this film in a much more introspective way and reflective way. And especially because she's reunited with the two other actors to have discussions about these at recent conventions, including earlier this year. So I think it's a great thing to see that she's climbed out of it, because I think she's damn good in the movie. I think she is the superstar of this film. 100%. I don't understand. And she was nominated for a Razzie. You don't want to talk about filmmakers screwing people over, man. The fucking Razzies, sometimes they really need to put stuff in context. Like, this is a young actress. She had no idea this was going to blow up, become this massive success, and she would be the highlight and the focus of so many dudes' angers, because a majority of people go see movies are dudes, or at least a movie like this are dudes. And then to nominate her for a Razzie, to even let that go, so that she would endure the kind of hatred that she endured, it speaks volumes about how stupid some of these fucking people are in Hollywood, and how snickering and smirking they enjoy shitting on actors with their little negativity awards. It drives me nuts. Sometimes the Razzies are fun, but this in 1999, you got to have context. And so I think it's so unfair, the stuff she endured, because I watched it again for our show, and she is fantastic in the film. And I would push any young actor to try to do what she did in the situations she was put in, which Steve will probably get to, what these directors did to these actors through this shoot, and come out with that performance. She's fantastic in the film. She holds the whole thing together. I mean, she without her, if Heather didn't give the performance she gives, this isn't going to work. This is going to work at all. Yeah. And it's, again, I go back to degree of difficulty. She's doing the whole thing while improvising all of this stuff in the middle of the night in the cold. As you said, we're going to get into all of it, and running the camera. Like, I think she is so good. And the Razzie thing really pisses me off. Yeah. Because what's happening there is like saying, when it's amusing, as you say, it's like a big star who has an obvious bomb and they have a sense of humor about it, but their career is fine, and that's where it's fun. Yeah, Sandra Bullock. Yeah. Kicking someone who's like just starting out, and the big thing about it is, it's not because her performance is bad. It's because her performance is so good that everyone hates that character. Right. You know what I mean? It's a Nurse Ratched kind of situation, who also has struggled to find work because she was so much associated with one character that everyone hated. You know? It was like William Atherton right after Ghostbusters and Die Hard. Like, he had such a hard time finding work because of people just connecting him with that kind of stuff. Again, I think we're much more aware and have better perspective now on these kinds of things. But back in the 70s, 80s, even the 90s, as we see with Heather, like, the public and the audience typecast people all the time, or thought they were these things that they were shown in the movie. And it really can be quite damaging for someone who is not strong in their mental health in dealing. Oh, even if you are, to have millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people coming after you, it can rattle anyone. You know, no, this is why I've always been so uncomfortable with any kinds of public shaming. Yeah. You know, like, even when it's someone who does something that looks really shitty, it's like, I don't think any humans can understand what it is to have a billion people pointing at you. Like, that's the end of your life. I mean, it's a big deal. Anyway, and I'll say one other thing. Having gone to film school and having worked on a lot of low budget film things and low budget documentaries and little things, talk about verisimilitude. This is 100% real. This is why the actors, you should not make fun of these actors, because this is how it is. And just starting off with, we're already shooting thing in the house. Yeah. And she goes,
some essential reading, how to stay alive in the woods, because you never know what's going to happen.
She just puts out the perfect amount of false put on pretentiousness that she hopes nobody notices is fake. You know? Yeah, she was very natural in that way. That's what I was watching this time around, is seeing the natural
performances from these actors in these moments, especially now that we've seen so much reality shows, Steve, so many found footage films. I wanted to see how authentic these actors were, and all three of them still radiate authenticity. Yeah, so there are occasional moments where it feels like they're putting on something or playing an emotion or a moment. Yes, but overall, I think they all three still nail it.
And as we're moving around, the camera is showing some stuff in the house and they're heading outside. We should point out, for those of you who have not watched this film, if you do not have a strong stomach, there are a lot of people who had some very, very strong reactions. I think people are probably a little better at this now because there's more handheld stuff, but this is a lot of handheld bouncy camera moves, and it is not the beautifully controlled handheld made by a professional cinematographer, but rather just an actor moving around with a camera. So it is a lot of bouncing around. It also is why, on some levels, this is kind of a radio play. You know, because it's there is a lot in this film where it is POV walking through the woods and you're hearing voices, you know? Yeah. And so it's really the voices that are really telling the story.
Yeah. In conversation throughout, I think it's really great to give a sample. And listen, these are people in their 20s, and it feels very authentically like people in their 20s having like playful banter, conversation, you know, being on camera. All of it feels very natural in how they're presenting things.
Hey, it's Mr. Punctuality.
Hey.
How the hell are you this morning?
Tired. So I got the CP up.
And this is Josh Leonard, who in fact was late to the first morning of the shoot. So that is why they're doing it this way.
I think Joshua is the one who's kind of succeeded the most out of all of this. He was born in Houston, Texas. To a theater professor father from Pennsylvania State University. And he got into all of this stuff in acting wise. He spent time in Seattle and London, where he developed an interest in photography, and then settled in New York City at 19 years old. So quite a lot of experience before he got into Blair Witch. And then from Blair Witch, which is the first thing he ever did, he did films like Men of Honor, Deuces Wild, Madhouse, The Shaggy Dog, Prom Night, which some people have kind of enjoyed as well. Among Ravens, If I Stay. So years of work all the way up until 2022. And TV show wise, NYPD Blue, CSI New York, CSI Miami, Numbers, Criminal Minds, True Detective, Bates Motel, MacGyver, and was even married to actress Allison Pill for 10 years from 2015 to 2000 to this year, 2025, which they just divorced. So an interesting guy with a lot of things, and certainly he was the most successful of the three of them and able to deal with the success a little bit better than the other two were when it was all over.
So Josh claims that the reason that he got cast was because he already knew how to use a 16 millimeter camera.
Yeah.
It seems like that might not be as true. I'm not saying that actors ever exaggerate anything on their resumes, but I mean, he could run it. And by the way, and this is just so typical of movies that are at this level, the way that the supervising DP was chosen is basically the guy who had to teach them how to use the camera and talk about how they were going to film it. Yeah. He was chosen because he happened to own the 16 millimeter camera that they wanted to use. That is so normal. And it's actually a really normal thing is that frequently, like if you're a sound guy coming out of film school, back in my day, you'd buy your own Nagra. Because if you had your own Nagra, people would always hire you, you know? Yeah. And there are a lot of DPs and camera guys and stuff like that. They got a van. So you hire me, you get my van. That's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Also, this 16 millimeter camera has apparently sold over and over on eBay, each time for more thousands of dollars.
Wow. That's amazing.
One of the things that I think is really smart in terms of filming is that we have this moment where Josh is filming Heather with the 16 millimeter black and white camera, and Heather is filming him with the high 8 video camera that was bought at Circuit City, because this is going to be the language of the film. And I think this shot kind of establishes that.
Yeah.
And the other thing there's a lot of what I would describe in this film as incidental dialogue.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell you all the discussion of all the things that gets them into the house and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then we go to pick up Mike, who is played, because everybody has the same name as their character, by Michael Williams.
Yeah. Michael Williams, born in the Bronx in New York. He graduated from sunny New Paltz, where he was a member of Kappa Sigma. After this movie, some shorts, some films, nothing really big in terms of TV. Law and Order Without a Trace, Law and Order SVU, and then FBI 7 years ago, an episode of that. But yeah, not really too much success on his side of things in terms of the acting in his life.
How are you, Mike? It's nice to meet you.
I'm tired, but I'm doing good. I'm real excited about this. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm very glad. Well, thank you for getting the equipment together.
Which tells us that Heather doesn't even really know Mike.
Yeah.
And I don't think Josh and Mike are close necessarily.
No. But this is how it is, isn't it, Steve? I mean, there's a lot of filmmaking. When you're making something, you're like kind of put together with people, or you hire somebody to help when you're doing these independent stuff. And so to me, it felt believable as a person who didn't know much about independent filmmaking. Right, to me, when I'm seeing this in 1999, this feels so believable because I'm at Florida State and I've done a couple of student films at Florida State that are from the film school. And so these guys hardly know each other when they get put together to make these films. So I saw that firsthand before I saw the movie. So it felt authentic to me.
It is 100% authentic. That's exactly how stuff happens. Is you'd be like, yeah, I need a sound guy. It's like, oh, my buddy John says his friend Mike's a good sound guy. All right.
Yeah.
And it also is the same thing of like, hey, I got a couple people. They're going out to shoot some documentary on a creepy witch in the woods for a few days. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. Like so much of running ahead when you really don't know what the fuck you're doing is how this stuff happens.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And most of the time with my students, I'd say not to do dangerous things, but like, yeah, try things and you'll fail and you'll learn important lessons. Mm-hmm. I don't think they had the opportunity to use the important lessons they might have learned off of this one. And they're heading off the car. And one of the things they say, and this is just a classic example, we've used this term many times on the show, which is hang a lantern on it. Yeah. And what it means is basically, I have something in my story that I know doesn't make sense. And so I'm going to point it out to the audience so the audience will not, knock my thing for it, which is if you have a ridiculous coincidence of two people meeting in an airport, you say, oh my God, I can't believe we're meeting in this airport. What a crazy coincidence. And once you say that, then the audience will start saying, hey, that didn't make sense. That was too much of a coincidence because you hung a lantern on it. And that's what this is.
We've got so much fucking battery power, we could fuel a small world country for a month.
There is no way in hell they have enough battery power to run these cameras. Like anyone who's done it, you got to charge these things up, particularly in the late 90s. These things didn't last that long.
Like I said, for a majority of us who are not filmmakers, probably 95% of the audience who saw this, it felt okay. You're like, okay, get it. And you just move right past it. But yeah.
We head off to the grocery store, and the way that they figured out what the actors would eat was they gave the actors a budget and said, figure out what you're going to eat for the next 4 days.
Yeah.
This is smart and dumb, I would say. Because they didn't buy responsibly, which meant that they actually were more hungry. And then the directors made it so they would be more hungry at parts of this shoot as well.
Right.
And then they walk into this cafe, which you can see it's Halloween because there's ghosts on the door. And there's a brief interview about the Blair Witch with the waitress there, who happens to be the director Ed's sister.
Wow. Okay.
And
she is the most inauthentic of the people that they interview. You can tell she's acting. It's not actually, to me, it doesn't feel real. But the other people they interview, I think, can feel very real.
Not only do I think that, but my guess is they kept it in because it was his sister. Because it's totally useless. I don't think it adds anything to the movie at all.
It doesn't. You're right.
The woods around Halloween time is a creepy enough phenomenon. I don't want to go cheesy. I want to really avoid any cheese. I want to present this in as straightforward a way as possible, and I think the legend is unsettling enough.
How do you feel about Heather?
It's tough because she does such a good job being... when I saw the film, I hated Heather, right?
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to hate Heather when you're young. You're supposed to hate Heather because she is so caught up in her own stuff and thinks that her shit don't stink. And so that's the character you want. You have to have some villain in the movie if you're not going to actually see a villain in the movie, which we never do, by the way.
Yeah.
And so you have to have someone that's a bit of an antagonist along with the protagonist. Now, it doesn't mean that Michael and Josh become protagonists by default. The film is unique in that our protagonist is also at times our antagonist. So it's a fascinating way to approach this, the film. And I think Heather, again, I think she deserves so much credit for what she's able to do as an actress, which is establish this person as hateful at times because she's so driven to get what she needs, but also have these emotional moments where you actually feel bad for her, where she actually does seem to care about Josh and Mike. And certainly we'll get to that final scene of her with the camera in her face and the light on her face, where she's apologizing to their mother for what she's done. there is an arc here. There is a journey here. So I think she does an excellent job. And starting off, she's just, to me, as I get in 1999, I'm just like, yeah, this makes sense. I've seen a lot of cocky filmmakers who are young, male or female, who think they know everything. So of course they would do this all and act this way, you know?
Well, and here's the thing about it. So there are plenty, just as I have reasons that I am bugged by the actual directors of this movie, I have plenty of reasons to be bugged by the director, Heather, in this film.
Yeah, right.
And even if there was nothing mystical going on whatsoever, I think the decisions she made were dangerous. You know, like she did not know what she was getting into, and she brought these two guys into a dangerous situation. Yeah. Plenty of reasons to criticize her. I've known a lot of, as you said, male and female versions of Heather over the years. In real life. And this is the thing about, and you know what, frankly, probably I have been one at my own time, one time or another.
Sure.
But here's the thing about this is that you need Heathers to get this movie made. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there are so many people who go like, I am passionate about telling this story about migrant farm workers. It was funny. I told you we were talking off mic. I had recently watched Zoot Suit, and I think it's Tyne Daly, who is the white crusading, communist person who's trying to help these Latinos who've been falsely imprisoned. Yeah. And she is kind of like a Heather. I mean, she's a different sort of character, but like there are people who like, I passionately want to do these things, and that's who makes shit happen. And those people are frequently irritating, you know?
Yeah, because sometimes that's what it takes to get stuff done, because there's always people who are going to try to tell you not to do it, who don't want you to do it, or at times jealous of your drive to do it because they couldn't find the drive to do it themselves. And so, all of that is mixed in there as well. But yes, agreed. A lot of shit doesn't happen in the world without someone taking it upon themselves to go through the door and take the hits.
Yeah. So we're setting up for our very first shot of the film, and we have the slate, and we go, and this is full verisimilitude. All of the jokes about should we kiss the slate or bleed on the slate or, all this stuff. It's all very, very exciting. And then we cut to our first shot, black and white, looking out over the cemetery. And so part of how this worked was at various places, the directors left drops with some, and the drops would have more batteries because there was no way to keep all these batteries charged. They would take the old reels of film, they would take the tapes, they would drop new tapes, and then they would also give GPS coordinates and some amount of instructions of where to go next. And then wherever they went, there might be surprises or other things they didn't know that was coming. And with this one, they had scouted out this beautiful cemetery location with the town in the background, and they knew she was going to give her introduction about Burkittsville, and they went to the GPS location with the cemetery, and they shot in completely the wrong direction. There's no town in the background. They're just like, why did you shoot the wrong way?
This is Burkittsville, formerly Blair. It is a small, quiet Maryland town, much like a small, quiet town anywhere.
I think she has the perfect tinge of horrible pretentiousness in the way she does this.
Yes. Again, the credit to her acting. And those of you who aren't actors, you might not fucking get it. But she is doing two things at once. One, trying to imitate the hosts that she has seen before that we were familiar with in 1999 for previous documentaries like this. But also playing the character of Heather, who is trying to imitate this thing. So you're seeing both sides here, that she's nailing the imitation, but also nailing the imitation badly. It's like Meryl Streep and Florence Foster Jenkins. Meryl Streep can sing, but to sing off key in the way that she does takes a certain kind of skill. And Heather is doing that here because we all know that she looks ridiculous, right? But she has to play the characters if she totally believes what she's doing is the right way, and she believes she can be a host of this kind of movie, So it's fascinating.
I mean, it's so much what we do early in our careers is try to imitate the people. Oh, I'll just act like that person. I think she does a great job. And she also, by the way, does a great job with the writing because she actually wrote this whole, most of the things that are her speeches, Heather actually wrote.
She became a writer later in life, so it makes sense.
There are an unusually high number of children laid to rest here, most of whom passed in the 1940s. Yet no one in the town seems to recall anything unusual about this time. To us, anyway. Yet legend tells a different story. One whose evidence is all around us. Etched in stone.
And then you even get a little lens flare on the lens, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's an element to this where it's almost Marty DeBurgi at the beginning of Spinal Tap. Like, it's so pretentious and so consciously pretentious that it almost could become funny, although it definitely does not.
Right.
And now I do have one director instructor piece of advice here. This is unbelievably stupid. You do not shoot the introduction to your film before you've shot all the rest of the film. The whole point, like you're saying, essentially, I won't learn anything in all the interviews or explorations I'm going to do. I already know exactly what I'm going to say. This is wasteful, moronic, stupid, and arrogant, and not how you make documentaries.
No, but I think it's fantastic in the movie because it shows you how much of a rookie she is at doing this, that she would make a mistake like that.
And now we're going into a sequence where we're going to interview the local townspeople.
Yeah.
To hear sort of man on the street interviews about this myth of the Blair Witch. Several things about this. The first one is that they had ordinary people that they set up our actors to interview who didn't really know anything, who were just normal people. And then they also had setups with people that were told the stories or given pieces of the stories, and the directors rehearsed improvisational interviews with each of them so that by the time they were interviewed, they could play it really naturally as if they were just telling the story. And the key to all of this is that the actors did not know who the plants were and who the ordinary people were.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's good. You add authenticity for the actors as well.
And I'm not gonna go through every one of these interviews, but I will like try to just explain sort of what we hear a little bit about the story. So the first person is someone they're interviewing in the store, and he's absolutely heard about the Blair Witch, and he says,
I remember Mr. Parr was an old hermit,
Right.
and he lived up on the mountain. He had a place up there, been there for a long, long time.
So the names that we're going to hear, names like Ellie Edward and Rustin Parr, they went out and looked at all sorts of mystical stuff. So a lot of these names are anagrams of various things. So Ellie Edward is an anagram of Edward Kelly, which is a 16th century mystic, and Rustin Parr is an anagram for Rasputin.
Yep.
And then we cut to this woman with a kid. She's just a local, and she's just ad-libbing all this stuff with her kid. And I think her kid does genuinely get scared at a certain moment as she's saying this stuff.
Heard stories about her from people and neighbors and stuff like that, but also I saw a documentary on the Discovery Channel or somewhere.
Really?
Once about her, about the ghosts and legends of Maryland.
Playing it like it's tapping into that to make it feel a little bit more real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, again, from being from that area, everything this woman is talking about, I've seen people talk. I knew people, I grew up with people like this. So to me, all of this was very authentic. And I'm sure this is all over the country, small towns like this or small places like this.
Sure.
Where you meet people like this and have these kinds of conversations. And these legends. There's always legends in every town. You know?
Well, and apparently, if you grew up in this town, this was the legend that was used on little kids to make them go to bed at night, or the Blair Witch was going to come get you.
Yeah.
Sort of in the winter, I guess, the fall or the winter 1940, some of the young kids started to disappear, and nobody knew anything about why they were disappearing. Finally, one day, old Mr. Parr come down into the market and said, "I'm finally finished."
And what did he mean by that?
Well, I guess nobody knew at first, but the police finally went up on the mountain, and they searched his house, and they found the bodies of 7 kids from the area.
So that's just an improvised line from this random guy.
Yeah. But
that really became a line that people hung on to in terms of the mythology going forward with this movie. That I'm finally finished is definitely, it was on t-shirts and all sorts of stuff. And we cut to a different dude. And he says,
What he did is he took the kids down in the basement by twos, and he made one face into the corner.
Really?
And then he would kill the other one. And then when he was done with that, he grabbed the one out of the corner and killed that one too.
This is an extremely important moment in the film.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only thing, this guy talking about the kids being put in the corner and that stuff is the only footage really within the movie that was not shot by the actors.
Yeah.
This was shot much later on, and here's how this came about, which is that the film ends, again, we spoil everything, with Mike facing into the corner at the moment that something happens to Heather, and we assume they got killed. And this was the ending of the movie pretty early on, and was the ending of the movie at Sundance. And people said, the ending was creepy, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
It was creepy, but I don't get it. And didn't really quite work. And they came up with this mythology that this is the one person pointing in the corner where the other is killed. And they went back and shot it. And I think the reason this movie is haunting is really this line, this moment here, you know?
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Because like, it would be so weird. They just turn the back and then it's over. Like the fact that you add that gives the context that you so need for that ending.
Yeah. That's what puts it, that's what it makes, it's the difference between seeing a creepy thing and seeing a creepy thing that connects to a whole other thing in your brain.
Because they lead to that moment with the handprints on the wall, the child handprints on the walls.
Yeah.
Of the house. So they're even on a subconscious level, they're evoking that.
Said in court that he couldn't take the eyes on him. He could feel the eyes watching him. That's why he made him face into the corner like that.
Well, and this is why, you know, experiencing a movie is different from creating a movie, because in experiencing a movie, the powerful moment is the one at the end. That is what haunts you.
Right.
But in creating the movie, the important moment is actually the plant.
Yes.
That's what makes the powerful moment work.
And those were the 7 kids that were missing. And then they brought them out of the woods one at a time. And it just was a terrible thing. It just tore the whole community up.
So this Blair Witch thing has been going on for a long time in a lot of ways and is messing with this town.
And you think that it's possible that she's still up there now?
I don't go up there.
You don't go up there?
Yeah, I believe enough not to go up there.
I mean, there was a creepy house in your neighborhood growing up, wasn't there?
Of course. There's a creepy house in It's a Wonderful Life that they throw the rocks through, right? So there's always something that people create because people need to have those things.
And that is why their life is cursed. They broke the windows, cursing their lives, moved into the creepy house, and everything goes wrong for them. Seems obvious to me.
Yeah.
By the way, one thing that happened, so they interviewed all these people and they did this stuff with locals and some of them with the improv, everything that I said. And what you need to do legally is, in order to have a person in your movie, you have to have a signed release form that says, I agree to have my likeness in this movie.
Yeah.
But as you said, these are pretty inexperienced filmmakers, and so they didn't manage to get the releases from every one of these people. They literally had to hire private investigators in post to track down all these people that is in this interview montage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. That's why you got to dot your I's and cross your T's when you make your movies.
So true.
So we're at this trailer. This is the perfect trailer for this lady to be living in.
Oh, yeah.
B, I think this is this lady's trailer. And this is, the character is Mary Brown, played by Patricia DeCoux, which seems like an interesting person.
Yeah, I mean, she was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, in 1934. She passed away in 2007 in West Virginia. This is the only thing she did, and she was an art technician on the film. So she was part of the production crew as well as playing Mary Brown in this movie. But yeah, I think she's a fantastic energy for radiating what needs to be radiated here in this movie. And this is the perfect casting for someone to tell the story that she's telling, because she's so unusual and weird. And for me, as I said, from that area, I knew a lot of people that look like Mary Brown.
Yeah, it's really perfect. The actors on the set described her as the world's oldest college student. And it's so funny. And of course, I don't know anything about Patricia DeCoux. She could, I have no idea, except that looking at her and her, it's like, I've been around, I know this person.
Yeah.
Because they're people, and you need, again, it's like you need the Heathers, is that there are people that will show up to help you on their movie set because they will just want to be there.
Yeah.
And they want to be a part of the thing. And yeah, they're a little bit weird, but you kind of could use the extra help, you know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I felt like something was near me.
Right.
You know, kind of an eerie feeling. It was like a woman.
I think she's totally believable as this kind of strange person.
Yes, 100%.
Only on her arm, on her hands and everything, it was like hair, like a real dark, almost black hair. Like a horse.
Like fur?
Yeah, like a fur, like horse fur.
I honestly don't know what's going on, but it's freaking me out.
But she just kept staring, and then she opened up her shawl.
And what was under there?
And under it, there was hair on her body like a horse.
So she was hairy from head to toe?
Yeah, and her legs, and you could see
Right, how about
she was
her
a
face?
female. With just kind of like strange looking.
I mean, this is if you're going out to get the creepy interviews for your creepy paranormal documentary.
Yeah.
I think you could do a lot worse than Mary Brown.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that she's holding a Bible, right? So it gives that other element to it. And she's dressed in what you would normally stereotypically think someone who is deep into the Christian religion in the woods of an area there would look like, you know.
And what do you do when you're driving home from after interviewing a weird lady? You talk about the weird lady you just interviewed. All of this is tracking is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And the other thing, by the way, about the Mary Brown interview, you might notice is that it is out of focus. And the reason it is out of focus is because Josh really wasn't using that camera right, which is why we're now having an argument under the car about meters versus feet and what that's all about, because Josh actually did mess up with the camera.
So you measured for meters? What? We're not in Europe.
Well, the fucking lens has meters on it, okay?
It also has our system.
All those are meters.
What about the brown ones?
The brown ones are feet.
Yeah, all the brown ones are on there, eh?
There you go.
Back at the motel, what do you do after a hard day's work of independent filmmaking? Get drunk at the motel.
Yeah, especially because you're about to really get into the meat of things. So, because I mean, you don't have a lot of conversations with these characters. You know, my mom this, my dad this. I came from a hard scrabble life. No, it's all in the experiences that they're experiencing together that sparks conversation. And they're young. So yes, they're going to get drunk in a hotel and whatever and all this because they're about to go do something that neither of them have ever done before. So it's fascinating.
Going out of town on a totally independent little film shoot with some buddies it's a blast.
Yes.
You know, you work hard all day and you drink at night because you're 20 something, you don't give a shit. And you just it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have the illusion that you actually might make something that would succeed, which by the time you get to 40s, if you're like out in the woods making a no budget documentary, you know, this is not, you know, the odds are bad that you're going to make something out of this.
Kick some ass.
Cheers.
Today.
Very good day.
Excellent day.
Very good first day. Okay, we're going to do an equipment check, but I'm going to call my mom.
Heather saying we're going to do an equipment check is like being very responsible, you know, like this is how you're supposed to do it. And I really do like the moment.
Pour me a shot, please.
Oh,
I'm freaking out.
You can't do that.
Yes, you know, at this point, I fucking have to do that, all right? I fucking have to.
And she drinks that scotch.
Yeah.
To me, this is, you can tell me what you think.
Yeah.
The beat work is, I want to connect to I want to be one of the boys. I want to connect with these guys and be accepted because I know that there's a barrier between us. And so I could drink this and then I'll really be one of them. And, and the falseness of it and her really trying to me are both equal, you know?
Yeah. And I think this, again, if you're looking to, like what we do on this show is analyze film, right? So you got to look at the beats within the film. And maybe some people watch these films, don't catch the stuff or don't care about this stuff. But I think it is important when you're looking at a performance. And the idea of a female in a male-dominated world in 1999 going out into the woods with two guys that she barely knows, or one guy she barely knows, and the other guy that she knows, there is a sense of like, well, how do I make this shoot go as smoothly as possible? I got to be one of the guys because then it'll be a lot easier to get along with them. If I other myself by being a woman or female, and I'm talking about 1999, I think that would have caused problems. So it's very believable that she would do this stuff. And later we have that conversation about farting in the tent, you know, very matter-of-factly, or they actually video her taking a piss in the woods. Like there's these kinds of things where they're breaking down barriers, but she has to deal with it in order to be able to work with them and get what she needs to get. And I'm sure there are plenty of women who will tell you stories about having to do the same thing in different arenas, even now.
So to be clear, the other giant hero of this film to me is the editor.
Oh, yes.
This isn't, so first of all, what we heard is that this wasn't going to be the structure of the film at all. It was really going to be much more of a third person documentary exploring this thing, but that's not what they did. What they said, what the director said was frequently you had to get a 3-minute scene out of 1.5 hours of improv.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes to what you said, you know, that the ratio of improv is like, you know, 1 to 10, you know, that you actually get good stuff. So as I brought up on the show and I mentioned earlier, I developed a couple of plays out of improvisation when I was in college. And that was, you know, the time as a playwright, I really wasn't as confident in writing dialogue. And so this was a great way to get actors to improvise dialogue. I recorded it all. And it was exactly the same thing. An hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours to find a 3-minute scene. And so, but the difference is, and there are many differences. When I was doing those plays, I took the improvs and then we wrote an actual script, and then that was the script. It was based on the improvs, and so I used lines that the actors had said, but structured it in the way that, was tight.
Right.
But I was there. I was in the room redirecting the improv. If it started to go too far one way, I'd walk over to an actor and I'd whisper in their ear. If it started to go the wrong way, I'd restart it and say, hey, let's try this at this moment, and shaped it. They can't do that. So all they have is they've given the actors some general instructions about what's going on, and then the actors just recorded a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, from what I understand, they told the actors there were going to be notes hidden in like film canisters or whatever. And so they would have to open the note on the day of that particular day that they were shooting and then follow the instructions and improv the instructions as it's laid out. And so, yes, exactly. You don't have that kind of on-set director to adjust or do these kinds of things. And you're trusting that these three are going to be able to follow your directions and deliver good footage, And so, yeah, it's all of that that's mixed into the stuff.
Well, and one of the most basic things that a director says, it was funny. So I know I told this story that Stacy Keach, when he was in my film, The Assistants, told me how John Huston directed him when he was in Fat City for John Huston.
Oh, yeah.
And I've heard this multiple times about John Huston. He mostly only gave 2 directions. A little more, a little less. And that's it. Yeah. But the director on set being able to say a little less is one of the most important directions a director can give.
Yes.
Because it's very hard for an actor to understand how it's playing in the camera.
Yep.
Or and the other thing is to see the whole dynamic of the entire film. If you go this far in scene 1, we're not going to have anywhere to go in scene 6. That's why you have a director.
Right.
They don't have this. The director gives them a note, but then they can't say a little less or a little more. Right. And one of the things that started happening in this scene is that Josh was extremely aggressive with Heather.
Oh,
right from the beginning, which caused,
Oh, wow.
Okay. Well, no, in the improvs.
That's what I mean. In real life, we were doing the improvs. Yes.
Yeah. Now, I know nothing about Josh and Heather's relationship on the set or if they're friends or it reflects anything real. I don't know anything like that. But I do know that Josh his instinct was just to poke at her harder. And first of all, this is the scene where they're supposed to be together.
Right.
Where everyone's supposed to be positive before it's gotten bad. And so one of the big challenges was to re-edit many of the scenes in order to pull Josh back. And it also, as they're getting the footage and the editor's looking at it, Josh's intensity changed the entire plot of the film, which we're going to get to, because it wasn't supposed to be Josh that was going to go missing. It was going to be Mike.
Oh,
but they flipped it because of this stuff that was happening.
I wonder if Josh knew that and then made a decision to do it this way so that he would be the focus of the movie.
Well, I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that Josh had tickets to Jane's Addiction on the night that he actually left the set.
There you go. There you go. I wouldn't be surprised. I know you want to say, oh, directors, they should do this, but actors are insidious little motherfuckers sometimes too. So
I never said I am a humanist, dude. I think directors, actors, cinema. I think we're all assholes. Like we're all humans.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we are perfectly capable of being awesome or terrible across all groups.
Yes. How many lines do I have? All right, I'm gonna go to Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, some girl back in the late 1800s, Robin Weaver, I believe her name was, supposedly just wandered off, disappeared into the woods.
We meet 2 fishermen in the woods who it's a father and son-in-law, locals, of course. They were paid $50 each to do this gig. And they ask him about the Blair Witch. And what's interesting to me is there isn't a single legend of the Blair Witch.
No.
There's this dude who maybe killed 7 kids in the 40s, and there's other things that happen at other times and other rumors. And I actually think that fits really well with how the creepy campfire story, the scary legend works.
Yep.
Is that it's not too specific,
No. And that, like anything else, it's a game of what? Telephone? Where by the time one person tells a story to the person standing next to them, by the time it gets to 10 people over, it's a completely different thing. And ironically, this is how the internet is, right? well, I'd heard this. Well, I saw this. Well, I'll tell you what, do you know what else they did? And so people love to plus stuff and think it's innocent or think they're just having fun, and it becomes part of the legend, right? And so, yeah, you see that here.
Well, and it's like, if you hear one weird thing, that's okay. It's just coincidence. There's weird things all the time, whatever. You hear two weird things, you're like, oh, it's kind of weird that both those things happen. If you hear three weird things, even if the three weird things really aren't connected.
Yeah.
I mean, these things are not connected to each other in any way.
No,
but
not at all.
there is a cumulative effect of weirdness.
Yeah.
You know? And so what happens is, and this is the phrase, and as you said, this is the internet today. Well, I don't know what's going on, but there has to be something going on.
Yeah.
Because too much weird stuff.
Yeah. Like, we're seeing that now. You know, I'm not trying to be denigrating, but like, you know, the UAP thing or the UFO thing, whatever terminology you want to use, that has now found new life. And it was, well, there's something here. I know there's something here because look at all these accounts and look at all this footage. And now we're talking interdimensional travel, which is a bridge too far for me. And so, you know, these things that you see,
you're not going to take the wormhole to the Delta Quadrant, John?
Exactly. I mean, I do believe that we're not alone in the universe. Do I believe we've been visited? I don't know if I'm ready to go that far. And I'm certainly not ready to go far enough. It's been a government conspiracy that somehow has evaded discovery for numerous decades when we can't even keep a White House leaks in a White House from happening. So, you know, these things that people make these beliefs possible in their minds, but I think a lot of them aren't true. But we certainly need to believe in this kind of stuff or whatever. Like there's something here. I know there's no evidence of this thing that I'm accusing this person of, but I just feel it in my bones, or I just know there's something here. And well, there's no evidence. No, but because they're hiding it, or it burned down, or the person died who had the information, you know? So it's like, okay.
I mean, it's real hard. And well, this is why this movie I thought was interesting to do right now, because it's getting harder and harder to figure out what's true.
Yes, because more and more people are invested in conspiracy theories than ever.
And those things, and when our emotions get pulled in, like with fear, as in this case, it makes it easier and easier for us to believe some really weird shit.
Fear and hatred.
Fear and hate. Yeah. Strong emotions. That's what does it. Anyway, and these guys, honestly, I'm not even entirely clear on everything that these guys are talking about.
Yeah, she was babbling something about an old woman whose feet never touched the ground.
The old woman whose feet never touch the ground is like the kids turning their face into the corner. It's just an image, you know, that kind of sticks in your head. It's not meaning anything.
Or like Mary said, like she had like dark hair on her arm.
Dark hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is exactly what you would see in this kind of a documentary, you know? Mm-hmm. By the way, my son has discovered the people breaking into creepy houses this is a whole genre on YouTube. One of my film students had made like $1 million on this thing, which is there's some abandoned, you know, hospital, some abandoned jail, police station, and they break in and talk about, and maybe they have their, I don't know what the, you know, ectoplasm counters that, you know, sense for mystical things and spirits and ghosts and shit like that. Yeah, this is a whole genre on the internet.
Oh my God. Yet no one's been killed by doing any of this, right? No ghosts have killed them. No anomalies have killed them.
Crazy.
Somehow they've been able to break into all these things, but nothing's ever happened to them. It's hilarious.
Well, you know what? I'm glad we kind of went over here because it is all about that suspension of disbelief. And I don't. Did you like it when they told scary campfire stories as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fraidy cat. I've never shied from that. I think some people have taken my distaste for some horror movies as like an indication of hatred of horror. It's not that. It's that I'm a fraidy cat. So I like to be scared, but after it's done, I like to not talk about it after it's over, right? But some people are like obsessed with repeating the same thing over and over again every night on a campfire story. So I didn't like it when I would go camping and every night we got to tell these fucking stories. I didn't like that, you know, because I would get scared at night. I saw Paranormal Activity and I had to sleep with the lights on all night the first time I saw that movie. Like, that movie fucked me up. So it's like these things that I'm just naturally that way. So yeah.
No, it scared the crap out of me. I'm a fraidy cat too. I mean, I've told the story where the scariest thing in the world when I was 5 years old was the Exorcist commercial when it came on TV, and I would just hide behind the couch. Like when they would tell, I was okay when they told the scary story about the guy with the hook or the other, those stories from the campfire. Yeah, like I was okay when they told it, although frequently we would have that one camp counselor who was hiding on the woods and would jump out at you right at the
little fuckers.
But I could get through that. It was lying in my sleeping bag later that night.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, I will say, I don't think it's wrong for me to say that I have a professionally used imagination. Like my imagination won't stop. And so I would lie there in bed and literally the thought being like, now I know this is not true. It's just a made up story. It's not real. But if it were real, what was that noise? What was that creak? And that's me all night.
Yeah.
Even though I don't believe it's true.
I'm with you. Like every night, like Lindley is gone right now as we're recording this. And the last 2 nights that she's been gone, I go into every room before I go to bed. I'm not kidding. I go into every room. I open every closet. I look under the bed. I smash the curtains at the door because I am afraid that someone has snuck in while I was working or in the office or watching TV or had my headphones on in the bathroom, which I do. So like these are these things. And even Lindley's joke, like if I ever get killed, it'll be because you're wearing your noise canceling earphones because you wear them all the time around the house. So I'm always paranoid that someone is in the house at night before I go to bed if I'm by myself.
They're driving this really beautiful black and white, driving down this kind of country road. The directors love this. They're talking about this is where the real documentary is going to go. They're about to go out into the woods. They're packing up their backpacks. By the way, the actors did have to carry their own backpacks. They did have to load their own backpacks. They picked what clothes they brought. They picked, to some degree, what supplies they brought. But the directors and the crew were carrying extra stuff. So there was other stuff they didn't have to carry.
Do you like this as a director watching this now, the vacillating between black and white and color? Do you think it adds something to the movie? Okay.
Yo, I totally do. You know what's funny?
I like it.
Yeah. When Hoover and I made the second Great White Shark documentary, we did a thing that you're really, really not supposed to do. And we just did it because of budget, which is that it's shot in at least 4 different formats because it was shot in DV, on SD 1080p, 720 on a Vericam, and and a couple of other things. And people can feel jarred when you move from one format to another, but it doesn't bother me.
I think it added a believability. This was found footage, that this was, they had to use the footage they had, which is, it could be color, it could be black and white. So I like that. Yeah.
Well, and film just looks pretty. I mean, even poorly shot 16 black and white, there's something more emotional about it.
Yeah.
And so the contrast between that and the just real world high 8 footage, I think it makes this the Blair Witch Project,
Yeah.
So we're packing up and heading out. And again, they have been given instructions and GPS locations. So the director and the crew know exactly the next place they're going to. At the direction the actors walk away from the car is exactly the wrong direction. This is not where they were supposed to go. And this happened multiple times in the shoot, which is the actors got it wrong and got lost. Because you expand the list. You're not just asking them.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you're asking them to make up their lines, film their lines, record the audio for it, and navigate the woods via GPS signals, put up tents, cook your food, make fires. Like there's a lot you're asking of these actors. Well, and the thing too is that the actors getting the GPS right is what your schedule is based on, because you have plans for each of these spots in order, and you are trying to set things up so you're ready when the actors show up. So if the actors mess up one of these coordinates, the whole schedule falls apart.
They went into the woods prepared to find death. What they found was a desecration of humanity at the site which trappers have often referred to as Coffin Rock. On top of the rock formation, the story of the torture inflicted upon these brave 5 men unfolded.
So here we get another legend. And again, I'm not even really entirely sure what happened in this story that she's telling. Like, there's some people that got killed and they found all this blood.
In the torso of each man, the intestines had been torn out crudely. On each man's sun-bleached face was inscribed indecipherable writing.
Sounds like there's some fucked up shit going on Coffin Rock. And again, we're not actually supposed to connect it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's no way to go. like, here is the sequence of events of all the things associated with the Blair Witch legend and how they all fit together. There's nothing like that, you know?
No, it's just supposed to add more and more fear, right? If you're a viewer watching this, of what could have possibly happened here.
So in the casting process, one of the directors, I'm not sure which one, was totally against Heather for a long time.
Wow.
And the casting director and the other director and the producers were totally for her and fought for her. And obviously they won the day. And it was really at this point, because what they're doing is they're picking up the tapes and the footage every day from the drop from the actors. And so they're still trying to watch dailies. And it was at this moment, as they're watching her read this stuff and the stuff that she's done, that all of the directors, including the guy that had been against her, went, "Oh, we scored." Like and particularly they mentioned that she had a Captain Ahab quality that they felt was critical, you know, to this.
I think you could argue that. Absolutely. Yeah.
And we hear we're heading off to camp and that we're losing light and we, all the things that you would worry about. And then it starts to rain. And of course, this is not fake rain. When it's raining, it's raining. It did rain for about 24 hours straight. Oof. All of their stuff got soaked. John, I mean, I know that you would never take this job.
No.
But if you had, like, what would this be like for you as an actor out in the woods in the rain trying to make this movie?
I think there would be a lot of frustration because just like in the movie, these actors don't know each other. So like, how are you going to interact with each other when all of this stuff is happening and you're out? And I'm not a camper. I hate camping. Having grown up in Virginia, I hate being out in the woods because, you hear all kinds of stories about what crazy shit happens in the woods when you're growing up. And so I've never been a fan of it. And so, I would have a hard time with this as an actor. I would never take the job, especially for the pay that they were giving them. And then the other part of it is, what do the elements do to people who you have never known? How are they going to react to it? Because you're stuck out there with them reacting to it. So I'd have a lot of issues with doing something like this. Now, I think in my 20s, maybe I wouldn't give a shit, but now I totally would.
I think if you had done a thing like this in your 20s, you would have given an amazing performance. And my guess is it would have gotten scary. I think there's a strong potential that you would lose it at one point or another under these kinds of circumstances, that's what I mean. It could be an amazing performance.
I guess if I had been 20, we're talking in early 20s. I'm in the military. I'm in the best shape of my life, 195 pounds, ripped, muscles. I think there'd be like a swagger to it. And then getting scared, what would my reaction be to the getting scared, the authenticity of the moments, the back and forths, the energy, and all of that.
And the cold, the wet, the lack of food, not sleeping, all those, and all of it. And I know you're feeling about those directors and what they're putting you through. You'd have some righteous indignation at a certain point.
Yeah. I mean, again, these are you have to look at all these the different angles of looking at these directors. There's one angle I don't 100% agree with you, but when I read about what they did to the actors, it does anger me on so many levels. But the world and history of film is littered with way greater directors, because these guys didn't go on and do shit after this movie. Way greater directors who have put way more talented people through worser shit to achieve things that they wanted to achieve. And we've been very clear in the Cine-Files that we don't support that behavior, but you could argue if you wanted to that the results could support that behavior at times, depending on the situation and depending on what you're trying to get from these actors. And you could argue that because they did this to these actors, you got some really authentic stuff that made the film as successful as it was. Not that we're condoning it.
It's funny. There's a chapter in my upcoming book, The Director's Toolbox Conception, called The Dark Tools. And the book is all about here are all the tools you make to make a film. And the dark tools is exactly what you say, which is like, and the examples I use is the opening of Apocalypse Now, William Friedkin slapping a priest in Exorcist, and Kubrick's treatment of Shelley Duvall in The Shining.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, I can't make Apocalypse Now, The Shining, or The Exorcist. I couldn't make those films.
Right.
And so like, I'm totally opposed to people doing these kinds of things, but I can't say that they don't work. And the thing about this movie in particular, this is an experimental film.
Yes. 100%.
When you sign up as an actor for this film, it is like, no, we're going to try something, and it is going to be hard. Yep. And the physical hardness, the unpredictability, the chaos of the thing, that's the experiment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I admire, even though I have obviously extremely strong opinions about the correct way to make a film.
Yeah.
You know, I teach film. I have strong, not that there's only one way. I don't mean that at all. And this would not be how I would teach to make a film. Yeah. But I want people to try to make films like this.
Right.
Because I want experiments in the arts. I want trying new things, you know?
Yeah.
Right now, the new thing they're trying is 3 of them sleeping in what seems to be a pretty small tent for 3 people.
Yes. Ugh. I hate camping. God damn it. I hate it. I fucking hate it so much. I'm not judging anyone who loves it. I just hate it.
Yeah. And again, is all rings true. The jokes, as you said, about farts in the tent and cigarettes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they wake up the next morning. They heard some noises or something last night.
It was like there were 2 separate noises coming from 2 layers of space over here, and one of them was kind of like, one of them could have possibly been an owl, but the other one was like a cackling. It was a total cackling, man.
If I heard a cackling, I would have shit in my pants.
2 things about this. One is when they say the next morning we heard sounds, that's because the director and the crew were stationed 20, 30, 40 yards around the tent, making noises, keeping them up at night to do this. And they had plans for all of this. And also, same issue with the previous scene in the motel. They had to cut all of this way down because Josh and Heather were far too aggressive with each other.
But, you're young. You're young and you're exploring your boundaries. And, sometimes, yes, you get the actor who understands, okay, there are lines not to cross and lines you're supposed to cross. When you're young and you're trying to prove yourself, you're going to go too far sometimes. Oh, I'm not excusing it again, but you might go too far sometimes in the interaction because you're trying to find the authenticity and you're improvising. I've seen it on stage and I've seen it in film, and so it's both. It can be very negative, but it can also be positive because it can lead to stuff. And Josh, arguably the most successful of the 3, and it may be because he has an instinct to try to find authenticity in his own way as an actor. But yeah, not excusing it, but certainly I'm not surprised to hear it.
Well, to be clear, I have no information on the actual real actors, Josh and Heather, and how they felt. I don't. All I know is that in terms of the drama and the structure of their characters, that they felt the character of Josh was going far. I don't know if they felt the actor Josh was going too far. And I also go again, this is why there is a reason to have a director around because sometimes it's 7% too far.
Yeah.
And that's, I've given those directions a lot. It's like, again, it's a little less, but it's a little less. You're right. It's just trying to modulate those things can be really, really difficult in those circumstances. And now we get to a prop that is going to play a very important part in the Blair Witch Project moving forward. And that is the map.
Yeah.
Now, Heather is pretty confident that they've really been, for the most part, going the right way.
But
Wait, say that again?
I said I knew where we were going.
Wait. Would that be a full of shit statement?
No, I didn't.
Would that be a full of shit statement? All I'm saying is that you got us lost, man.
Again, the relaxed banter just works so well here. And then, as you said, Steve, highlighting the introduction of the map, which becomes a massive deal to lead us into the final part of the movie, because it is the map disappearing that causes the door to open to them, all 3 of them breaking down in different ways as they get more and more lost in these woods.
It just occurred to me, there's something I've heard many times, including probably, I'm assuming from you, is that the most dangerous person in the Army is a second lieutenant who thinks they know more than they do.
Gorman from frickin' Aliens. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's Heather. Heather is 100%. Maybe she's not a second lieutenant anymore. Maybe she even made it up to lieutenant.
Right.
But she thinks she knows a lot more than she does, and she's not willing to admit if she makes a mistake or if she doesn't know anything or if she doesn't know something.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've known people like this, and so and how you deal with it. But that's what I said to Steve when we started talking about this. Like, as an older person looking back on this, I have much more sympathy for Heather than I did when I watched in my 20s, right? Because Heather's young, she's in charge of this thing, she's a woman with 2 other dudes. Like, there is this thing of like wanting to accomplish something here, not wanting to look weak, not wanting to look like she doesn't know what she's doing. and wanting to lead. And she's young. So young people who want to take control of situations are going to make mistakes. And sometimes they're going to hope that they can figure it out while fooling other people that they know what they're doing. And it happens in all areas, regardless of gender too.
You know what? This is just hitting kind of hard for me at the moment is the way we just had that conversation is why, and I don't blame the directors for this, but why it actually was so unintentionally cruel to have them all go by their names.
Yeah.
Because all we can talk about is Heather is like this.
Right.
You know, and then you have this person who says her life was ruined, and I'm sure that it was.
Yeah.
Because she's Heather.
Yes.
And she did, 8 days in the woods or whatever, and one time in her life, and then the rest of her life, the entire world frequently hates her and has all these judgments about Heather, which is not Heather. That's this character in this film.
Okay.
Just don't get us lost today.
Yeah, serious.
I'm not. I know where all of these places
So what's up? Are you
They're
happy
all
with the
very
way the
well
documentary's going?
Yes, I am.
Yeah?
And I think at this point, this is just sort of, basically almost every movie set I've ever worked on has had moments of incompetence.
Yeah.
And definitely they've all had delays and stupidity and confusions. And that's just how this goes. So I feel like we're at the normal level of bitching of something going wrong on your movie set.
Also, if she's lost, they're lost, and all chaos erupts from there, right?
Well, this is something, I wasn't going to bring it up here, but there's something, our world is a very safe world.
Yes.
In the sense that when you walk into a restaurant, a store, you go to Disneyland, you're riding in a cab, you assume that your safety is being taken care of.
Yeah.
That the food won't poison you, the rides won't kill you, the driver in the cab has a driver's license. Like, you assume all those things because there's all these rules to keep us safe. As soon as you step outside of civilization, there is nothing set up to see. You're in the woods.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The only thing to keep you safe is you. And so when you are a crew, I think the person who is the leader who brings inexperienced people into the woods takes on the responsibility for their safety. But I would also suggest if you're ever going on the woods, don't just trust that the other person will entirely take care of your safety.
Exactly.
You're in the woods.
And I'm very pleasantly surprised by our little Mikey.
Our little
Our little Mikey.
I don't know if you saw this when you were at Florida State, but when I was at USC, particularly between grad students in film and undergrads in film, there is this amazing condescension that happens in someone that only has 2 years more experience than the person they're being condescending to.
Sure.
It's like you don't know anything, and so our little Mikey moment really pissed me off.
It's very human. This idea of the other person has less experience, so I must denigrate them in order to feel stronger. And sadly, that's the truth.
There's a trail on top of this hill, don't worry. It is a trail. We like shortcuts, don't we?
We like level shortcuts. We don't like mountainous shortcuts.
To which I wrote down, been there. I know you've been there.
Yeah.
In basic, you must have had a lot of mountain shortcuts.
Sure. Yeah.
We have some jokes about Mike being shirtless and the hair on his chest, and this is exactly what it's like when you're with 20-year-olds with film cameras. This is what's going on.
Yeah, especially at that time.
I also should point out, as they're pointing out the map-like birthmarks on Mike's skin, that we have a mention of Bolivia 2 movies in a row, John.
Yes. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I know. Lost, admit that first. Because
I know we're not lost.
Oh, you knew that yesterday too, and you knew that twice today.
No, bullshit, and we have not been lost at all today.
Here, I have an important question here.
Okay.
So it seems to me there's 2 possibilities.
All right.
There is a mystical thing going on in the woods, or there is not a mystical thing going on in the woods.
Right.
Is Heather actually getting lost, or is it the mystical thing that is getting them lost?
Oh, no, I think she's getting them. I think she's getting them lost. Yes, 100%, which is what the mystical thing relies on when it comes to take what it takes. Because it's like anything. It will not just go hunt it because it knows eventually the prey will get stuck. And you see, when you watch enough nature documentaries, you see how predators don't always get all the prey every time the prey comes into their realm or their area, but they do the same things in order to trap the prey, and some prey eventually get caught. You're never going to have a 100% success rate. And so I think the same thing with this situation. They wait because they had plenty of opportunities to leave, and they didn't. They had plenty of opportunities to turn back, and they didn't. And I think Heather's admitting that they should have done this or that by the end is clearly agreeing with that point.
Well, I don't know. See, this is where I'm kind of, it's a mystical thing in a very odd, peculiar movie. So I'm not sure that there's some right answer here, but there's a day coming up where they've walked south all day and end up at the exact same place they ended up before.
Right.
There are two possibilities. One possibility is Heather doesn't know how to read a compass, and they didn't walk south all day.
Right.
They walked in complete circles and ended up where they were.
Yeah.
The other possibility is they did walk south all day, and the magical powers of the Blair Witch warped reality, so they ended up at the same place.
Yeah.
So, because the thing is, if it's the latter, she might have never actually gotten them lost. She might have been doing everything right all day and always ending up in wrong places.
Right. But I think that takes away the
drama of No, I totally see that.
Because listen, if you take it out of the woods, how many times have you been lost? And not a lot of us get lost nowadays, certainly. But like you and I are older, Steve. Like there were times where you could drive into a place and you get lost.
Oh yeah.
And you drive into the same. You drive into an intersection that looks exactly like the same intersection you were just at, because a lot of towns look the same. A lot of intersections can look the same. And you're like, wasn't I just here? Or was I not just here? This looks so familiar. So I think that's could be the possibility that goes on here. Because when they go all the way south and they end up I actually don't think they end up in the same place. I think they end up in a place that looks similar to the place they started at, but they're so frazzled that they can't realize that they're possibly in a different place, you know?
Well, this is some of the, I think for the most part, unintended things that really work in this film, which is that because it doesn't all hold together, because there's no way to make these improvs that are totally unsupervised over these chaotic situations about mythologies that don't make sense anyway, all fit together. It's never going to all fit together.
Right.
And that actually works in the favor of the movie. You know, because we don't know if it was the same place or not the same place. We don't know how far they walked. We don't know. There's so little that we know about what's going on here.
That's the gift of the film. We know as much as they do.
Yeah.
We're not ahead of them in any way, shape, or form.
Let me tell you what you said to us. It's like 2 miles away. Then it's like 2 hours away, 3 hours away. Maybe it's 4 hours away.
The more I watch this movie, the more I'm really impressed with these three actors.
Yep.
But the one thing that was going on was Josh continued to be increasingly antagonistic with Heather. And it does sound like I listened to a podcast where one of the directors was on. I do get the sense that some of it was off-camera stuff bleeding into the on-camera stuff.
Oh, okay.
And they really, as I said, they wanted Mike to be the real first conflict, not Josh. And so what they're doing is they're editing in such a way where they're cutting out as much Josh being antagonistic as they can. And in the notes that they're leaving after they see the footage, when the actors pick up these notes, they're giving notes to Mike to be more antagonistic.
How could you?
Did you agree to do this project?
I did. I agreed to a scouted out project.
How many times, John, have you been on a movie where you're like, this is not what I agreed to. This is fucked up. Where they're saying like, you've already been there, 21 hours, which isn't unusual on, non-union shoots. And they're saying, hey, by the way, we're going to need you to get naked. You're like, what? I didn't agree to that. All sorts of stuff.
Yeah. I once shot a student film where I had to put my head in a swamp, the back of my head in a swamp. And there was all kinds of little like tadpole things swimming around in that swamp. And I was not happy. And because remember, I came back to school. So I was not a 20-year-old, 21-year-old impressionable kid. I was 27, 28 when I came back to college. And I was probably shooting those films when I was 29. And so I was talking to the director who was younger than me. And I said to her, you're going to get 2 shots at this, and you do it. And if you can't get it by the second take, you're going to have to come up with another shot. Cause I'm not going to lie in this untested swamp with my hair and my head, not knowing what the fuck could bite me or not knowing what bacteria I might be putting on my body. So, So I have been in those situations where, because she never told me we were going to put my head in a swamp,
Yep. Yeah. Well, this is why, right at the beginning, I said, I'm not happy with these directors for some of these choices. And it's because of how actors get abused,
It's true.
But Josh, who has now been given the direction to be more the peacemaker, goes,
Guys, it's cool. It's cool. Please, you're being a smartass. We're looking at the map. We're gonna find this.
and of course, then Mike looks at the map and we find out he doesn't even know how to read a map. By the way, this is an important skill for the coming apocalypse.
Yeah, true.
Like, learn how to read a map.
The map's important.
Let's see.
Learn how to make a map first as well.
Gee, well, I don't have that. I can read a map. I can't make a map.
Who's gonna make the maps?
Nothing. I don't know why you have to have every conversation on video, man. Tape some
Because we're making a documentary.
Not about us getting lost. We're making a documentary about a witch.
I think this is a tough one for the film that, for the most part, they managed to pull off, which is then, and again, we're kind of hanging a lantern on it. Why do you have to video every one of these conversations?
Yeah.
And the real reason is because if she didn't, we would not have the Blair Witch Project.
We wouldn't have a movie. Yeah, exactly.
I have a camera. Doesn't hurt because we'll all look back on this and laugh heartily. Believe me.
But it also adds, doesn't it, Steve? It adds more to the thing that she's being selfish, right? And for the audience, you're like, oh, she is being selfish. You're on the guy's side against her as you're watching this the first time, I think.
Well, selfish and stupid, I think, because it's like, why? What is the point of this footage?
Yeah.
What this is not what it's about. And I do think there are definitely points in the movie where I'm like, come on, you would have put the camera down.
Yeah.
But that being said, because I've been around a lot of documentary filmmakers, and they don't. There are plenty of footage in war zones and all sorts of disasters where that camera person keeps shooting.
Yeah.
Because that's the job. They're crossing over a fallen tree and, which can be a little bit scary in the woods when there's, a stream beneath, and particularly with big packs and expensive equipment, that's a little tough. And here's the thing I was thinking about watching this. If I was going to shoot a movie that had characters crossing a stream, I would have a meeting with my DP and discuss the shot selection, and we would discuss how they would do it. We would go over it with the actors. We would go over the safety thing. And then we would think about, at this moment where I'm going to have a close-up insert of the foot that slips on the log and they start to go over. And then I'm going to cut to this person who reaches out and grabs it, close-up of the two hands grabbing to hold them up from falling. And I would have worked out exactly what this is.
Right.
This crossing over a log is three people trying to figure out how the hell they're going to cross over a log.
Yeah.
This is what it really is, as opposed to a director and putting in all this time to manufacture something that seems real.
Yeah.
This just is real.
We're very, very, very close now. You guys excited?
And this is one of the other weird jobs of a leader, also of a parent, is trying to keep everybody's spirits up. Hey, guys, isn't this going to be great? We're going to have, aren't you happy to be shooting here? It's terrible.
It's been my experience that it's very hard to keep production spirits up. That's very hard because most people do production are very practical about what they do. And so they don't really go for the rah-rah speeches. And so you have to kind of figure out how to do that with them. As I've watched from the sidelines, directors try to get the production people to get excited, or actors try to get the production to get excited.
One of the secrets is you can't fake it.
Yes, true.
When you're in a miserable situation, you can't turn to someone and say, isn't this fun?
Yeah.
Because it's not fucking fun. Like the key to keep people's spirits up is to actually care about the people that you're working with.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Treat them with a lot of respect. Make sure that everybody is helping out and make sure that things are efficient and make sure that people are working together.
Yeah.
And then when things get really shitty, which they always do, then you're a group of people in a shitty situation together.
Right.
As opposed to a group of people in a shitty situation falling apart.
Yeah.
Which is what we're going to see in this movie.
Yes.
The actors are lost again looking for this cemetery, and they were really lost. Apparently, the cemetery was really close to them, and they just kept turning to the right at the wrong tree or not going over the hill or whatever it was. And what's happening all the time is that the directors and the crew have get to the new place to get everything set up.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to worry that they're not going to make it to the cemetery on time where they set all this stuff because we're running out of daylight.
Right.
Now we walk up a hill and we see all of these little piles of rocks, which, by the way, are known as cairns.
Yeah.
Again, this was the crew right ahead of the actors getting everything set up.
We've seen these massive versions of cairns recently, the 28 years later bone temple whole thing. So you've seen those because those are apparently, I did a little research on this, that they're from Ireland. That's what they originally were used as burial markers. And now they've been used as like trail markers and other things in life. So yeah. But it's creepy when in 1999 when you're watching this.
And then Heather starts talking about something that Mary Brown told them, the lady who was holding the Bible. I don't think this plays this well, and it clearly reads to me like this was a note in one of the milk crates. It said, make sure to mention the connection to Esau and Mary Brown.
Yep. Literally have that in my notes. Most inauthentic moment in the movie, because she says, remember what Mary Brown said? No one talks like this. No one fucking talks like this. So it was too much of a setup. You know, it was that rare moment where Heather kind of misspoke or misstepped in her performance.
Well, and again, to me, this is just evidence of the degree of difficulty that she's pulling off everywhere else.
Yeah, agreed.
Because this is, I mean, like the amount of time a writer spends trying not to say, anyway, remember what that person 7 scenes ago said? That's bad writing, and that's why it takes a long time to figure out how can I write this line without sounding like pure exposition.
Yeah.
You know? But now you're just saying, hey, actor, you figure it out for me. You know?
Right. And it speaks volumes of how good she's been doing up to this point.
Exactly.
At this moment sticks out. Yeah.
Ends up there's 7 little piles of these rocks. It's later on, we're sitting at a campfire talking about, and this is what you talk about at the campfire. We're talking about Vienna sausages and beer, and that leads to beer on a desert island, which leads to
Get started on this desert island aboard this tiny ship.
Yeah, but this ship has a good captain, not a fat beer-guzzling guy in a blue shirt.
Of course you get to Gilligan's Island. That's what you do in the middle of the night, you know?
Yep.
And I think this ends with a genuinely funny button on the scene.
Gilligan was a funny guy.
The captain was fat, though.
Well, okay, let's call it a thin captain.
Let's not call it the captain anymore, you illiterate TV people. It's the skipper.
That's a good joke.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
And to me, this is, I wrote down, it's like, this is a perfectly true moment.
Yeah.
This is what we're like, you know? We see Mike in his headphones. We're back in that black and white footage. The actors at this point are real unhappy. The actors here, it is, it is cold. They really hiked all day with heavy packs, and because they got lost, they hiked extra miles with heavy packs, which is not pleasant. And this is not a fun shoot, you know?
Yeah.
Mike knocks over some of the rocks.
You didn't just knock that over. Please tell me you didn't just knock that over.
And then she freaks out. And I don't know if she's coming from the place of like, you know, there are some directors who don't like to mess with stuff as they found it, because there's a kind of a respect to leave the place exactly how you found it. Some directors don't care. Producers really don't care most of the time, in my experience. But like so it coming from that place, or she may be starting to get scared about this Blair Witch stuff as they get more and more lost, and him knocking over something like this leads to, in her mind, a possibility of upping the stakes of something happening, or the possibility of something happening to them from whatever's out there.
I think it would be better if it was working strongly the way you're saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
because I don't feel like there's been,
for sure.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's been anything at all up to this point to trigger a sense that Heather might to some degree believe that the Blair Witch is real.
Right.
In fact, I don't think the film engages in that idea. And again, this is why this is an improvised movie. So it's like that would be a thing a screenwriter would be thinking about, how much do each of these characters believe?
Yeah.
And that would be a thing that would be pretty normal to explore. You know, and you're probably having one that is pretty superstitious, one that thinks it's all bullshit, and one somewhere in the middle. And that way, as we discuss the Blair Witch, we would have arguments among those people with those point of views. But that's not really in this movie.
Yeah, she asks them, but they don't revisit it.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Because to me, it reads more to me in terms of a performance, more like we are in a national park. We will not mess with anything that's here, rather than a superstitious, I don't want to mess with this because the Blair Witch will come get us.
Yeah.
But I don't think it reads great. I don't think it's a moment that works great, period, really.
Yeah.
And then we're in the black. and this is a thing will happen a lot. Every time we're sitting in the black in the middle of the night, from this point forward, you are expecting something to happen.
Hello?
And the camera pans round.
We're sleeping. Just keep it by the opening in the tent.
This was the first night that the crew made noise. So the previous night, which is where they're joking about farts and stuff in the tent, they left them alone. This night, it's 3 a.m., and they had people around the tent waking up the actors.
Why would you tempt fate like this? I would never participate in this.
What fate are we tempting?
I don't mess around with shit in the woods. Like, having grown up again in Virginia, in the south of Virginia, and going into some woods that I went into with weird shit that you see in those woods. And I mean way back in the woods, because that was a thing we did as kids. And by the way, without our parents with us, we would go off on, and I'm sure, Steve, we talked about it.
Miles and miles into nowhere.
Yeah, and we would go into the woods of Virginia, deep into some of these woods. And this was before like all the buildings came and the housing residents came and all the stuff that happened in Dale City. Like I moved there in 79. And in 79, it was a one-horse town. And there was like miles and miles and miles of woods in all these different sections. And you would go over the steel gate that was there at the end of whatever residential area you were in. And then you're in no man's land. You have no idea what's there. And so we would ride out to our bikes, leave our bikes at the steel gate or whatever, and then climb over it and then just go walking out into the woods as far as possible. And you would see shirts, torn shirts, you'd see food, you'd see beer cans, you would see all kinds of weird shit, like these designs you see in the movie, like these little things designed in the trees. You have no idea what this stuff is. And so it was all about scaring yourself as much as possible before you could run back. So I've always been like, don't fuck around with shit in the woods. Don't try to bring spirits onto the earth. Like I believe all that stuff, which is why I don't mess. That's why paranormal activity fucks me up so hard as it does. Like, I don't believe in courting any kind of evilness coming into the world, even if you're just making a movie,
Well, that's why I wanted to be very clear on what fate we weren't tempting, because it's like, are you worried about a bear or are you worried about the Blair Witch?
The Blair Witch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's so much about what they asked these actors to do, and really the whole crew, I'm sure. Which, again, in your 20s is kind of fun. Yeah, we're going to go out in the woods. We're going to have this crazy experience. But this is a lot of stuff going on. This is rough on them.
Right.
I think they do the directors or the editors for this, and I think they do a really good job finding shots that pop.
Yes.
In the sense that, because you're spending so much time just looking at a shaky camera and some leaves or the dirt, so that when you see Heather crawling around in the woods in the dark, those shots really kind of register with you. You know?
Yeah.
They also do a great job, I think, of the sounds are perfectly too quiet to really figure out what the hell they are.
Right.
Hello? Hello? It's all around us.
Most of which, by the way, is actually just the sound that was recorded on Heather's high 8 camera, which is crazy that it works so well, but a lot of it is just that sound. Yeah. And by the way, so she's crawling around. There's one moment where one of the directors, Ed, is just literally on the other side of the bush, and she almost caught him at this point, and that happened a fair amount because the crew is continually setting something up and trying to get the hell away before they can get seen.
Michael, are you saying you're not coming down?
I ain't going down there.
Why not?
Because I'm not. I don't hear shit.
Because you're fucking scared.
Because I don't hear anything anymore.
Because you're fucking scared. You could not deny hearing it. Get your ass out. What's the big deal?
It is interesting. I think really almost through the whole movie, they continue to still have Heather be the leader.
Yes.
There's not a rebellion that happens exactly.
No. Well, some people are built to bitch about the people in charge because they don't want to be in charge. They'd rather bitch about the people in charge. And I think that's an element of Mike and Josh here in the movie. Because either one of them could take over the role of leader if they wanted to, but neither one of them does. They'd rather
except they
other leading.
Well, and except I don't think they could because they're not leaders.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But they're quite happy to bitch about the leader.
Well, this is having been in a position of leadership many times, I am always aware of the people quietly bitching. I'm probably not always aware of it, but yes, there are always people quietly bitching who will still let you continue to lead the group.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Because they don't want to step up and do it.
Right.
By the way, in this sequence, Heather was apparently really harsh on Mike and Josh, and they had to cut that way back.
Wow.
And to the point where like the directors had to step in and have a conversation with the 3 actors and like, you guys got to settle down. It's daytime. It's raining. Heather's kind of asking what they thought of last night, and Josh is pushing back against Heather.
Personally,
Yeah.
I think it was someone fucking with your head.
But nobody knows we're out here.
Yeah, but you ever see Deliverance?
I think the gift of the editing in this movie, if I can speak from my own personal point of view, is they know exactly how to get in and get out. And as you said, they know exactly which shots to select that pop and where to start you on in the next day. They don't start with the camera outside the tent or the camera inside the tent waking up and and there's none of that shit. It's boom, we're already in daytime, they're already dressed, they're already out here. What's going on? Right. And so I like that. Or boom, it's already dark, they're in the tent, then they hear noises. And so it's really smart, the shots they've chosen or the footage they've edited to get us to really follow this and then like constantly be unsettled the whole time as we're watching this. Because we can't control the narrative.
I think it's a great point. And it's something, again, this is an experimental film that took an entirely different way to make a movie.
Yeah.
There have been plenty of documentary style or found footage style films that have come out since then.
Yeah.
But almost all of them were shot by DPs and directors, not by the actors.
Right.
Which means that they can only, it's like crossing that log. They are trying to simulate what a found footage thing and how an actor would shoot this thing or how a father would shoot this thing with their video camera, as opposed to just handing the camera to the actors and letting them do it.
Yeah.
You can't simulate what this is. You have to do it this way, you know?
But do you understand at all where I was coming from? I just wanted to get whatever it was. I didn't know. Josh woke me up. I was freaking out. I was freaking out. I woke up all of a sudden and shit's going down. And all I can think is I gotta get it. I gotta get it all. I want it on sound. I want it on 16. If anything, if we can see anything, I want to see it on 16.
What do you think of Heather at this moment?
Again, to me, she's trying to stay the course on this whole thing, and she's trying to appeal to Josh and Mike. But I think she's very limited in her abilities to deal with a situation like this from her own emotional makeup. So I think she's navigating it as best she can, but she's constantly stepping into piles of shit as she tries to do this. And even calling out Josh and Mike in the way that she does. It's like, well, are you on their side or not on their side? Or are you fighting back to state your case? Are you pushing back so that they still see you as the leader? What's the motivation for the things that you're doing and how you're interacting with everybody in this moment, especially after a night of noises?
So I have a whole bunch of thoughts about this speech at this moment, because I think one of the hard things, and I think part of why Heather gets judged so poorly is when you go to see a horror movie, you know that the horror movie is real, whereas the characters in the horror movie, they don't believe in vampires or werewolves or ghosts or anything else, but we know we're seeing a horror movie and that there are vampires and werewolves and ghosts. So always characters in the film do not react as strongly to the dangerous events. They're always behind the audience who's like, no, there's a killer, you're going to die. And so we know that this is in fact far more serious than Heather or Josh or Mike know at this point.
Yeah.
So first of all, that makes us judge these characters more harshly.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I'm telling you, I've been with documentary filmmakers and news, cameramen, and this is what they say. I just knew I had to get it on camera.
Yeah.
It is that there are people, and it's funny, I don't love the movie, but in Civil War, that's the whole idea. When everybody's running away from the horrible violence, and the photographer is running towards it.
Yeah.
And so on the one hand, I think most people judge Heather for this moment and judge, you know what I mean? And go, oh my God, what are you talking about? Like you're lost, you're incompetent, you're focusing on this stupid movie, and you're all going to die.
Right.
But I actually look at Heather at this moment and saying, maybe she's immature, she's arrogant, she's all these things, but if she survives this, 20 years down the line, she might be awesome. Great documentary filmmaker.
Listen, this, Steve is a filmmaker. I've certainly experienced it at times on sets. Like sometimes there's a moment where it looks like, fuck it, just quit. You can just end the movie now and it's fine. But if you power through, you never know what it's going to lead to. And I think it's not just on film sets. I think it's life. Like there are situations you walk into, stuff starts going wrong, and there's always one critical moment where you can say, you know what, let's just stop. We're not going to be able to do it. It's over. Let's move on. Let's try it some other day. Or you push through it, and in pushing through it, you come out the other side and you've learned something, and the product that you were working on actually bears fruit down the line. And it's because you push through. And it's always a case-by-case basis, because sometimes it was better to stop and sometimes it was better to push through. Because I'm sure Coppola went through that on Apocalypse Now like 500 times while he was shooting that movie. He could have quit at any time and just taken the hit and bumps and losses. But because he finished, we got one of the most incredible films ever made.
I'm so glad you used the Coppola Apocalypse Now example, because I want to add something to it. And it's because it just perfectly lines up with what we're talking about, because he did exactly the same thing on Megapolis.
Right, exactly. And how'd that turn out exactly? Yeah.
That's the thing, is that there are people that run towards the danger in whatever way it is.
Yeah.
And when they succeed, they are the great heroes.
Sure.
And when they fail, they're fools.
Same thing in the military, right? What was Pickett's charge, right, in the Civil War? Yeah. If he had not done that charge, but he was so pig-headed to do it, and what ended up happening, right? Those things. Yeah.
But if they had made it up to Seminary Ridge or whichever one it was,
he'd have been a hero.
Your heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
What bugs me out is that we're so damn deep in the woods, and people are going to try and come out here and mess with us. Then they got to have something wrong with them, and I'm not going to play with that.
I'm not going to play with that, y'all.
But how do we know it was people?
Well, even if it wasn't, I'm not going to play with that either.
I don't even remember that being the phrase back in the 90s. I'm not playing with that, dog. We don't play with that.
I'm the wrong person to ask about any phrases that might have been cool at one time or another.
I mean, I remember "Homie, don't play that," but I don't think that's
I remember
what
that
playing on.
Yeah. We're walking again, as we are many times in this movie. It's raining.
Oh, really?
And this rain really messed them up. It was rain for 24 hours straight. All their stuff got wet. They lost radio contact with the actors, and so they didn't have the next campsite set up. And then I'm not exactly sure how all of this went down. Right. But basically, because it was raining, the actors actually walked much faster than they had on other days, because they're getting wet and they want to get out of the rain.
Yeah.
Which meant that the crew was not ready at a particular location because they didn't expect the actors to get there that fast.
Oh.
And then something else happened. And again, I'm not entirely sure of what the order of these events were, was they actually missed a drop. So they had some locations and they were supposed to stop at one location to pick up information, drop off their stuff. And the crew was setting up things there.
Oh.
But they, for some reason, they didn't go to that location. They went to a different location.
Mm.
At which point the crew said, and again, we've lost radio contact because of the rain.
Right.
So the crew goes, I think they're not going to come. So they pack up the location that they had just set up, thinking they had gone to the other location, at which case the actors circled back, realizing they missed the location. And so they come back, but now there's nobody there, and they don't know where to go next because all the information isn't there that they were supposed to. They've ruined the whole thing. And so, unfortunately, by the way, they were not shooting in the middle of nowhere. And I think they walked out to a road, hitched a ride to someone's house, made a phone call, and then ended up staying in a hotel that night.
Yeah, so this wasn't like 8 straight days out in the woods with hardly any food and barely any sleep. They had moments.
They had moments. Yeah. I mean, they're not that far away,
right, exactly. Yeah. It's the village over here, yeah.
So, and then they went back and reshot a bunch of the previous day because they hadn't gotten all the spots, but then it's bright sunshine out, and so it doesn't quite match with the rainy day footage that they shot the day before. And they mostly used the rainy day footage because emotionally it was what worked better.
It's a very wet, very long day. Nobody's really speaking to me at the moment now.
I like that you get, for all the anger you might feel about Heather, there are these moments where she has monologues to herself, but she's obviously talking to the camera, where you really feel the tension of what's happening between the three of them. And you have no idea, if you're watching it the first time, where it's going to go and who's going to be yelling at who next, and because they all take turns getting mad at each other. Right. There's even a scene where we're going to get to later on where like somebody physically, I think it's Mike, physically attacks him.
Oh, yeah.
And then Heather, and then they're apologizing to each other for losing their minds, And so, yeah, her having these, it's another way to keep the audience like glued into her. You may hate her, I guess some people do, but like you're also sensing like this is real thing for her that there's a lot of anger coursing through this movie as they get more and more lost. It builds as they get more and more lost.
Well, if they've walked 12 hours today, I mean, you've walked 12 hours with a pack on your back.
Dude.
And the thing about, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, you've done this far more than me, but the thing about when you're, I'll say marching.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the pack of the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And nobody's speaking. And the person in front of you might have gotten you lost, causing you to walk many, many, many more miles in the rain than you should have.
Yeah, yeah.
The rage you feel for those feet and that back moving in front of you gets big.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And sometimes, and this is the thing that for people who've served in the military, they know, like sometimes they lose you on purpose because they want to see how you're going to react.
Yeah.
Those are the mindfuck days when they purposely lose you on purpose, you know? And I hate getting lost. I'm not a fan of, let's just go explore. Not my age. Like when I was a kid, sure, it's a lot of fun. As I'm older, I hate it. And my ex-girlfriend before Lindley, she loved to go hiking in places and go on paths that were not that heavily trod so that we could get more and more lost and find our way back. She loved getting lost and finding her way back. I would get so irritated, Steve, I'm not gonna lie. Like I would snap at her. I would be passive aggressive because I just have a thing about being lost. You know, I have a thing about not feeling secure in moments. And I didn't trust her to get us back to where we needed to get back to. And especially, you know, there are places in LA where you hike where you can legitimately get lost. There's a lot of elevation. Yeah, people think it's all just fucking buildings and Hollywood stars on the ground. There's a lot of forests and vegetation in Los Angeles, outer Los Angeles. And you can get, especially in the valley, and you can get lost out there. And she loved it. I remember one time we did a 3-hour hike, bro. The anger coursing through me. Like, it was a terrible relationship, you know, but like certain things would really show you how terrible the relationship was. Because I know if I get lost with Lindley, we would still have a good time while I was lost. But this person seemed to get a joy out of getting lost, and she gave no fucks about my irritation about it, which made me only more irritated about it. So, you know, it's that kind of thing. So I totally feel what they're all going through in this moment. You know?
Yeah, things have begun to fray.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because we have to go around. That was the most direct way to hit our 2 locations. Now this is the most direct way back to the car.
Seriously, really?
Yes.
They're not entirely buying it.
We took a map reading. We just follow what the compass says. We're going straight ahead. We're going that way. That way.
We are in the middle of nowhere.
We've been in the middle of nowhere for 2 days. The car is parked in the middle of nowhere almost.
And here's the thing. I don't think they make this crystal clear at this point. But what it seems like is they were supposed to get to the car today and leave.
Yeah.
And because then what happens is then it's getting dark and Heather says,
I think we should camp.
Get the fuck out of here. Why? Because you don't know where we're going?
No, because I think we're still a ways off from the car and it's going to be getting dark real soon.
Have you ever been in a situation where you had to camp an extra night?
Yes. When we were stuck in Lake Arrowhead years ago during a snowstorm. And I remember that it was a retreat with this new acting company. Oh God, that acting company. We were rebels in the world of acting, creating a company that was a socialist theater company. Everyone was equal. We all did our jobs, you know.
I've been around that company.
Yeah.
I bet. Good times.
Except you couldn't contradict the woman and the man in charge of that company. Oh,
yeah.
Those 2 idiots.
And by the way, was there a bit of a Heather energy in the company?
Yes, and she was an older person. Like she was in her late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
And her husband was this like wiry guy nerdy fucking dude who just believed everything she said.
I swear to God, I've been in this exact company.
Yeah. And the thing is, there were so many incredibly intelligent people in that. And I don't mean myself. I mean other people who were there that were, you know, like really cool and really talented, really smart. One of them, I dated her for about a couple of months. She's, you know, she's a writer. She's been a head writer on the James Corden show. She's great, very talented. But we all bought into it. And this trip destroyed the company. Like we had all bought into it for months, and we were building up to our first play, and this was supposed to be like this really bonding experience. And we did all these exercises because they rented a house that we could go into from the campsite to do games and getting to know each other's stuff and all that stupid shit you do.
Yeah.
And then the snow came, which they didn't tell us about, that they knew about.
They knew it was good.
Yes,
it was a snow forecast.
Snow, right? And again, this is years ago, people, before you have the weather app and all this kind of shit. And so we were stuck there 2 extra days, and people had to volunteer to march into town to get food and supplies for everybody in the snow. And a lot of us didn't have clothes to deal with snow. It's fucking LA. And so it was a whole thing. And I remember, I was just waking up. It's like probably 8 a.m. I was just waking up. And all of a sudden, I have this bang on the tent. And I step out of the tent, and it's one of the older ladies. And I see that's 2 or 3 of the other guys who've been yanked out of tents. And she's like, "We have been shoveling the snow in the driveway for 2 hours while you men have been laying asleep and enjoying your sleep." And I was just like, I had no idea, you guys. I just woke up. Like, what the fuck is with the yelling at us? To me, I was like, I'm happy to do it. I don't understand berating us.
Tap on the tent and say, "Hey guys, we're gonna work on the snow. Grab a shovel." You would have gone, okay.
It's not like we were sitting out on our lawn chairs watching them shovel and going, "You missed a spot, sweetheart." Like, we weren't doing any of that. We were asleep. And so I just was like, but that's the fraying that's the tension, the anger, and the frustration. And everybody did not want to be there 2 extra days. People were losing work, because they had jobs. And so it was a big deal. And we didn't get out of there till Tuesday morning, because we were supposed to leave Sunday morning. We didn't get out of there till Tuesday morning. I remember that. Oh.
It's almost as if slap dab communal theater ensembles aren't all they're cracked up to be.
Yeah, man. You got to really love it, bro. And I never did to that level. I mean, I love acting. I love theater acting. I love being on stage. I'm built to be on stage. But all that other shit, I got no patience for it. Zero.
Honestly, this is the real contradiction of a Heather, which is that those people can be very irritating, but they're the only people that start the theater program.
That's true. 1,000%. 1,000%.
Like they had this idea, and we're going to go on this retreat, and we're going to work together. We're going to become like a family. And they had this amazing vision in their head, and they didn't check the fucking weather.
Yeah. We all bought in. Bought in. That's the thing also, is like, if you're amazing to start it and people give you the power, especially a lot of alphas give you the power, and you blow the power, that's when things fall apart. It really is.
Look, I'm not saying for certain.
We're not camping here.
Maybe we're near the car. Maybe we're near the car.
Give me the fucking map. Give me the map. Heather, give me the map. Turn the camera off. Give me the map. Turn the camera off and get us home.
No, I'm not turning the camera off. I want to mark this occasion.
How much do you think is Heather pig-headedly believing that they're not lost and hoping that the clouds break and they see the sunlight and they get to where they're going? And how much of this is Heather like subconsciously still wanting to get something out of this whole ordeal and pushing them to keep staying out here until they do?
Oh, that's not the question I thought you were about to ask. I thought the question you were about to ask was, how much is it her really believing this, and how much is her deep down knowing they're lost and that she's bullshitting them in order to keep their spirits up? That's what I thought you were going to ask. So I actually don't think this is a Machiavellian plan to get more footage for her documentary.
Okay.
That it doesn't feel that way to me. But I also think the fact that she keeps shooting with the camera and they're yelling at her in this moment to say, "Come on, turn off the camera."
Yeah.
I think that's again where you had to have her keep filming, or we don't have a film, and I don't quite believe it you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Come on, you know. and of course, and Mike is having the biggest reaction. Like, he storms off and yells in a distance, "God damn, this is fucking bullshit." And she tells her the words you really should never say to someone freaking out.
Just relax, Mike.
Don't fucking tell me to relax. Let's walk up, find a tree to sit under or some shit, check the map.
Yes, can we find a place to sit to check the map, please?
So for a lot of this argument, we are looking at a camera that is bouncing around. And occasionally you will see a human, but most of the time you're seeing trees and leaves and dirt, and there's just stuff, and you're listening to things.
Yeah.
And there's something important I want to point out about the filmmaking here.
Okay.
When you're editing, video and audio are not linked. Yes, of course, when I film someone talking and they're on camera talking, I record the video and the audio at the same time and I sync them up. Either they're sunk on the tape or I take an audio tape and I blend it with the video. But they don't have to stay together.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm not seeing anything with sync on it, which means people's lips moving, but if you slam a door, you have a footstep, or you do an action that has sound to it, well, that sound has to play when you see that video.
Right.
But if I'm just seeing trees and dirt and leaves and the camera's moving around, I can take any audio from any moment in this film and put it together. So when you're hearing this dialogue playing, that doesn't mean this dialogue was ever connected to the video that we're watching.
Oh, fascinating.
In fact, I'm sure it isn't, because of the way you do this, particularly this, if I don't have your face on screen,
right,
I can play whatever audio I want. If I have your face on screen, it has to match what your lips are doing, which means what I'm really doing is creating a radio play. So I am listening to all the audio and I am pulling this sentence from here and that sentence from there and this reaction from here to manufacture a dialogue.
Right.
And then I am placing whatever video I feel is appropriate to go along with that. Sometimes that video might have been where the audio came from. My guess is most of the time it does not. Again, we're in the black.
Are you happy?
I'm not happy, no. But the car is not far. We're just not going to be able to find it in the dark.
Are you absolutely, positively sure?
Yes.
And then we hear Heather say something that we haven't heard her say before, which is she apologizes.
I'm so sorry, man. We can probably still get the debt back tomorrow.
We have to.
Because she's out of tactics. I think she's out of tactics, you know? So, yeah.
Well, that's why it's like the time at which Heather knows that she fucked up.
Yeah.
And the time that she admits she fucked up to herself versus the time she apologizes to them are not the same time.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And I still say there's the possibility Heather didn't fuck up and the mystical power of the Blair Witch is making it impossible for them to find their way home.
Okay.
And again, this is where I don't think there is a sense that there's something mystical, that they're really scared about something mystical yet.
Okay.
Mostly what they're talking about at this moment is making it back to turn the equipment back in and get to work.
The dad, everything like that, the camera. Yeah. And he's freaking out. Josh is, I think, freaking out about, like, you know, he's got to go. My girlfriend, she, you know, she's called me. She'll be freaking out that I didn't call. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. And yes, the returning of the camera, which for those of you who've never done filmmaking, that is a massive deal because you've got to get that stuff back because you get charged and then you get a reputation. And so back then, some of those mom and pop camera stores would not rent you a camera again. And if they're in a small town, that may be the only mom and pop camera store. And so they could really be fucking themselves over on the situation.
You're going to get hit with the fees and you're going to get hit with more fees. And then they'll charge you an extra week.
Oh, yeah. Struck me as rich kids. So, yeah.
No. And now, finally, it's quiet time. We're going to get some sleep, relax. A nice, comfortable night's sleep will, I think, make everyone feel better, which is why at this point, I think we should end part one of our exploration of the Blair Witch Project.
Okay.
Nothing bad is possibly going to happen to them. But we'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe this is your first time visiting this movie, which is really interesting because so much of our reaction in this film had to do with the marketing and what happened at the time. So we'd love to hear your thoughts if this is your first time. You can do a search for the Cine-Files on Facebook. It's Cine_Files on Twitter. The Cine-Files podcast on Instagram. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already because you don't want to miss any episodes. And while you subscribe, go back and look at the catalog because my guess is at this point, having done this for 9.5 years, there are dozens of movies that we've done that we think you'll love. So check those out. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube. Leave your reviews or comments at those places if you want to buy or stream the Blair Witch Project, along with every other film we've ever reviewed. It's at Cine-Files.net, and I am at SR Morris on Twitter and SR Morris1 on Instagram. John, how about you?
Yeah, you can always find me at The Rocha Says on all social media platforms. And please come and check out the John Rocha channel, my YouTube channel. Now we've got all the graphics are lined up, a new banner. It's a whole new day on that channel. So please Come and subscribe, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. Enjoy all the content there as well.
And then just grab your map, your compass, and maybe some little stick men to come back for part 2 of the Blair Witch Project right here on the Cine-Files.